about to start.
Just one mistake is all it will take. We'll go down in history. Remember me for centuries. Remember me for centuries.
Can we talk while fire is talking? We did hear us. That's true. Hey, what's up, guys? How y'all doing? Welcome to another beautiful day. My name is Actfire, and I'm going to be your host. Okay, so we're jumping into the game pretty soon. We're going to be joined by Priest and Crowns, and today is going to be an absolute banger, and we're going to, go through all of the games. I hope you're ready and you're excited. But before we start, do remember to hit that like and hit that subscribe. Okay, just before you start. All right. Yeah, we're going to be hopping pretty soon. So, what teams are you guys rooting for? Who do you think is going to be leading the chart? Is Crowns Esports going to keep dominating, or we're going to have another team, to step up to the challenge? All right, we'll be hopping into games really soon, and I'll catch you guys after the game. All right, guys. So we've got a prize pool of 200,000 naira for the first team, and then 150,000 for the second team. And in third position, it's going to be 100,000. The MVP is going to be working away with 50k. So altogether, we have a prize pool of 500,000 naira for the Harmattan Split finals right here. It is outstanding. Thanks to Monster Energy and Carbon for sponsoring us. And yeah, an absolute great one for all of this team. So, all right, guys. So who do you think is right there in the chart? Let us know who is your favorite team to win. How do you think today is going to go? Who is going to, be leading? When it comes to being in that number one spot, is 3C going to be able to reclaim that number one spot at the end of the day? They are 30 points behind currently. XTC, that's of course 10-11 is currently, sitting down quite nice in that number one spot. They've got three winner chicken dinners, of course. They've got the most eliminations and the most placement points of all of the teams overall. 3C is also just not too far, well, quite far away actually, 30 points behind. And then trailing behind them is also the boys from Tribe, 4P and Tribe sharing just 1 point between them. So the question is, can they close that gap? Of course, the only teams who have got to chicken dinners are okay. Let's just move away from that quickly now. Go into the eliminations. Okay, that man right there, Kamazinho from 10-11 is currently just storming and is en route to get that MVP. Look at the amount of eliminations he has currently with 30 eliminations with a KD ratio of 6. He's absolutely stumming the lobby. You can see just followed behind him is Peachy. Now, Peachy has got only 10. There's 20 eliminations between the two of them. But it's still great work coming through right there from the rest of the players, from Peachy all the way down even to 7. So today we got 5 games for the night. It is day 2. We started from Erangel, moving into Mirama. Then we're going to go into Sandhawk and back to Erangel, and then we're going to end the games with Mirama. So great, amazing stuff today. We got a whole lot of games to go through, and Priest and Crowns are going to be joining us and taking us through all of those games. All right, so welcome back, guys. I actually thought that was the end in the beginning, but yes. So the question is XTC going to, remain on top? Well, we'll find out pretty soon as we join Priest and Crowns.
Alrighty, alrighty. Man seemed quite excited to just pass it over to us, but that is exactly what you get when you're in the NPL, because you do know the boy, your body's burning. You want to really see the action. That is how I'm feeling. How are you feeling about these games today, Priest?
Oh, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. You know, we're active. We're active. It's always fun when when Crowns and I are together. You guys already know. So it is what it is. But something I'm looking out for today is that you see that second place to like six. I feel that that's where we are going to look because it might be time for some of these guys to pack it up. But I'm not gonna mention no names, but second place is six. Yeah, I want to see what that's about. I'm not gonna lie, I want to see what that's about. But again, the question I want to have, I basically not even want to have. The question I have for the rest of these teams today is: did you do your reviews? Did you learn anything from yesterday, Crowns? Because that's what I want to know. I gave some pointers to some teams, and you did ask me yesterday. You see, did they listen? Did they do? Because there was a lot of things we saw yesterday that it looked like, yeah, you didn't listen, you didn't pay attention, you didn't improve the on the knowledge you already had, and that is where a lot of these teams are starting to have problems yesterday. But now, do you think the same thing is going to carry over today, or have some people decided to pay attention?
I mean, sometimes I like to give benefit of the doubt. I look at the way some teams were playing yesterday. With the side of Umoja Gaming is one that I definitely have to point out because we didn't really see them perform so well. But I mean, I was saying it at the end of yesterday. If you look at it, ideally there were only two teams who came to play yesterday, and that was a 10-11 and the side there of Three Crown Esports, because you look at it, out of 5 chicken dinner, Three Crown Esports were almost about to get two. I mean, Vanguard Esports did get themselves a chicken dinner as well. But 10-11 next to see getting the last 3 chicken dinners of the day. I'm really hoping we're not seeing that top heavy performance coming through today again, where all the other teams are able to at least stand up to the bar and show a little bit of attitude.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Again, top heavy. But if we talk about Three Crown Esports, they are more closer to the team in third place, fourth place, fifth place than they are to the first place team. So that's why I said I'm looking out for from second place to six, unless the first game goes crazy and
Hmm.
maybe Three Crown Esports do something diabolical in that first game because we are starting with
Yeah.
Sanok, but I'm expecting Ecstasy to still perform because it's Sanok as the first game. But yeah, all eyes on the prize right now, and I want to see what
Yeah.
does this playing path say, because it still decides for a bunch of these teams where their landing locations are going to be, what the decisions are going to be. Is north to south. Crowns, who do you think this playing path favors?
I mean, when we talk about the map of Sandhawk, we all know playing path doesn't really matter. Everyone can pretty much get to anywhere they want to get to. Where we're going to start to answer that question is when that first zone does appear. I also wanted to touch on the way or what we're expecting from this game, because, yesterday we didn't see 10-11 really step up to the game until until the Sandhawk, before we started seeing 10-11 start to show us what they're made of. And in this kind of situation, I also wanted to go with the whole, maybe Three Crown Esports might be able to cover or close that gap a little bit in the first game of the day, seeing that 10-11 might be needing a little bit of time to warm up. But then again, as you've just said, if you're starting things off in Sandhawk, that seems to be where 10-11 has tied their placentas. They know that map in and out, and they never cease to get a chicken dinner on this map.
Yeah, you're right about that one. They never cease to get chicken on this map. It has been very consistent from, the league stages to the super weekends. They have showed their dominance in Sandhawk. Now, can they do more of the same? We are going to be looking out to see if that's going to be the case today. But all eyes on the prize here. It looks like four portions. Another team that we have slept on. They turned up in the closing match for yesterday. I think it was Miramar. They turned up the heat, and we saw how dangerous four portions could be, especially with Peachy leading the attack force with 419 behind him as well. But I realized that this is a team that has advanced. They've learned. They've updated. Because naturally we would find them all the way out there in Painan, dragging with the guys from Three Crown Esports. Now, the crazy thing is that is something I would now be expecting. I would be expecting them to be doing that at this stage because Three Crown Esports is directly, I think, above them on the leaderboard. So a direct attack or an assault on Three Crown Esports would be beneficial to them if they come out on top, reducing the deficit between the two of them. But it looks like 14th Gaming wants something interesting here. 98K with a beautiful jump shot over to the other side and gets a drop on them. And Dark, it's going to be a dark night for Dark Knight because once again, Crowns, they start to struggle right out the gate.
Yeah, it's not something that I'm really excited to see from the side of Dark, because we did see this yesterday, and this is where we start to ask that question: Are you guys learning? What are you taking away from the games? I understand what you're fighting for, but then again, you look at what you're fighting for as well. You're trying to fight for your hot or well, for your drop spot in a tournament where every point that you get at this stage, contributes towards your grand finals, showing. So every single,
Yeah.
every single flipping what's the word? Every single elimination points that you get in this stage actually contributes to your grand finals point. And going out with 0 points in your first game of day two, or pretty much going out with 0 points in any game, it's not really helpful towards that campaign.
Yeah, you're right. It's absolutely not helpful. You want to start the day very strongly. Dark currently sitting in 12th. Again, it's always going to be it's always going to be very contradictory when your performance is not scaling up as the stages progress. Because, like you said, these points they tie towards the grand finals, and there's some teams that did not qualify into the grand finals. But let's not forget, they still have super weekend points. The super weekend points from the Harmattan split still goes into the grand final points. Even if you don't make the finals, it will still tie in. The only time it won't count is if you don't make the finals of either split. But if you make the finals of the rain split, even if you don't make the Amatan split, your points will still matter. That is why when you don't get points in the finals, it's like you really just stopped at the super weekend, and that's why it's so tricky. But Ragnar will be taking this one straight towards the guys from Hearts. They traded one, and Rage unfortunately was able to trade one out. But unfortunately, again, Hershey Sports crumbling under the pressure. 4-1-1, the last one left. And he has been very, I've been seeing this pattern from yesterday as well. 4-1-1, usually the last player left for Hershey Sports. Do you think is this like a team thing or an individual thing when it comes to players that are usually the last players alive? I noticed this as well with some other teams where you have one player that is usually the last player alive in that team. Do you think it's because that player just plays behind the team when they are taking engagements and he's too far out and he doesn't engage, or is it just because of the strategy that the team as a whole applies to any given situation whenever they're taking engagement?
At the end of the day, it could be planned. At the end of the day, it could be luck. I am heavily drafting towards that latter. But not gonna lie, hey, I'm not. It could be the gameplay that this is the person. Maybe people are trying to play protect the queen or protect the king, and well, in this case, I don't think that is something that they're doing here. For this idea of Hershey Sports, I don't know. I really don't know what it is. It could just be a case where one player is just more active as to what is going on. But then again, even when I hear that or when I see situations like that, I tend to ask the question: Okay, if he's the only person that is active in the squad, where is the rest of the team? Like why is every other person sleeping? Everyone stay active. Or if he's the one that is alive, or if he's the one that has more ideas to what is going on, why isn't he? Passing that information to his teammates, to carry them along. It's really a double-edged sword. I really couldn't tell you what that issue might be.
Yeah, I mean, it usually still stems from the strategy that the team as a unit even plays on. So you could be right about that one, regardless. But Three Crown Esports playing as three, it is not the way I expected them to start today at all. I really wanted them firing on all four cylinders. And again, this is something we've seen in the past crowns, and this is something you mentioned, I think, at the beginning of the Hamatan split. During the playoffs, you did talk about Three Crown Esports. Sometimes they would play a man short, two men short. It looks like that's going to be the case for them today again, because they have started today as three, and for a team that's behind, 30 points behind the leaders on the board, you can't just be starting, a man short. But fortunately for them, they will be trading off with Tribe Warriors. Again, this is the team I believe directly beneath them. So the moment that confirmation comes through, every single decision will be clear. Kiss unfortunately tries for the bait and switch, didn't work. Finger cops out immediately now, trying to go for the drop. But it looks like that's not going to be the case. Merrick is in the corner there, and he will be sending it forward. That's a solid grenade, and it does
Best
connect.
in too.
Quilla is going to be the victim, and there's a possibility. What did he do? Did he see him?
I'm at this point where I do not understand what I'm looking at, and the same thing would be the case for whoever is spectating next to us at the moment. Finger has to pop that heel off as they go in for that push with the side of Three Crown. It is now a 2v2. with Soul and Finger, the last two players left, but we do have a little bit of third party coming in through from Neon Rising. And this is where I myself, I'm like, Neon Rising are getting third partied by Afro Esports. And at this point, I'm just like, 10-11 is having a 30 points lead, and we're all here on 3 crown. But anyway,
Like,
it doesn't really matter.
like, let's be for real, dog. Like, I was gonna say the same thing. Like, come on, you. There's no way you don't have a plan. There is no way you don't have a plan by now. Neon Rise is playing off from the hillside north position. Everybody is coming to Pine Nan. I don't understand why. Why is Afro Esports, Tribe Warriors, and Neon Rising in Pine Nan in phase two of the circle? Come on, guys. Y'all need to help us out. Because I want to understand. Three Crown Esports is not with a 30-point lead. Come on, man.
A remark I made towards the end of the day yesterday was, it's like you guys like second place. Maybe that is the case. It's a situation of, okay, XTC has gone so far ahead. We're not going to try to try to slow their games down or anything. Let's just try to get for that second place. And well, if that's the plan, then yeah, it is a good plan, man. Like it's, I don't want to say 1 point, but my condolences to the side of 3 Crown Esports, who seem to have their last player now be on smoke from both teams. And there we go. The third party does get initiated there as Tribe Warriors would find one knock onto the side of Neon Rising. And now, your Neon Rising, there's a lot of thoughts going through your head. Is this a 2v4? Is this still a full squad that is in here? How many teams
Exactly.
are left? But, maybe now things might start to get clear because, they've just seen 3 Crown Esports, lose their last player there.
Yeah, you're right. Because there's so many questions because there's no plan. There's so many open space probabilities here for those teams that are playing in Painan at this stage. It's still early circle. We've still got 14 teams in the lobby. We've got 46 players, but somehow there's four teams in Painan. Every time I say it, it just sounds odd, man. It sounds really odd, but it is what it is. At the end of the day, like you said, maybe the plan is to, stay away from ecstasy. But I'm not sure. But we're starting to see it for ourselves. But for the meantime, 14th gaming looking good, looking strong. Not going too crazy right now. I think I can see what they are trying to do. Hold that, look at that northern side, and just find some apps by the edge. And it looks like it's Ragnar that's going to be their own bane of existence. But I think Athlete Game might have something from them as well on that northern side. I believe Noruka was knocked away on in the middle of the ocean. I don't know how that happened, but unfortunately, I think Ragnar will be losing that one. And they are making that northern rotation again. I don't understand these kinds of rotations, though. Crowns like what the zone is all the way down there, leaning towards the south. You're in the north, but you're coming in from the northwestern side. I don't understand what kind of rotation that is when it's phase three of the circle. I mean, if it's the early zones, I can understand it, but why are you all the way out there in the northern side? Like, I'm really trying to wrap my head around it.
And it's not something that we see every day or even more common. Zone, on the other hand, waiting for when we get to see that on the screen, but we have the eyes of the eagle here. We can see more. Zone, on the other hand, I'm looking at. It is looking quite all right, but it is one of those very confusing zones. You do not know where exactly you want to stay. And I think anything that is able to hold that trifecta region, they might be able to have better decision making when we start to see the next couple of zones pop up. But nonetheless, we're still seeing rotations come through from teams. Some teams going for wider rotations that seem to confuse us, and then there's other teams who are just still slowly but surely trying to make it into the circle. In Sandhawk, we don't really be advising for vehicles like that, So now, with the rotation is gonna get relatively slower. A lot of leg walking, if you get what I mean. But anyway, we'll be seeing those rotations come through from teams as we see four portions also at the edge of bootcamp, looking to be in that engagement with the side of Vibe Gaming and 1011 XTC.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's really tricky for ecstasy right now because four portions. I'm not sure what the plan for them is, because there's some engagements going on from that northern side. Looks like Unsullied Army will be setting their sights on the guys from Vibe, and Kenny is going to be the second victim for Vibe. They will be getting swept back into the lobby. Four portions. Again, in the dugout, I don't know why Clarity is in the dugout because there's two of them left. It's going to be a hard sell for Clarity to get out of dog, but it looks like Amari is already making that play and it crashes into the western side. He has been spotted by PG, but he has to be very careful. This could be a very, very tricky trade-off for Ecstasy if he's going to be spotted out. Clarity will be reconvening back into boot camp, but hopefully he doesn't get spotted out. Yep. And he gets
Instant thirst
spotted
to
out. He
follow.
gets dropped. He gets dropped. Yeah, because I do really know how he was going to make it back without getting spotted out if he wasn't going to smoke the entire path. But unfortunately, that's going to be the case. I don't see him getting picked up. He's too far out. Four potions will be down to one. And Amar is probably going to crash in from that western side, and that's going to be a wrap. But somehow they've actually lost someone. I'm not sure who they lost. Was it a
7.
um it was easy for seven? It was it? Or I think it was. Yeah, it was easy for seven. I'm not sure when they lost him and who they lost him to, but it looks like Arab T will be crashing the party as well. And this could be a big change for them. PG to the corner, but Amar is there. Will slap him all the way back into the lobby. Four portions out in 14th. Crowns, you see it defensively. For the guys from Ecstasy, they hold boot camp. And the crazier thing is here, there's another team in boot camp. There is another team in here why all of that is going on. Did you think
RT Sports
this was a bad call? Like if RFT wanted to like get involved, do you think they should have? Would that have been a bad idea?
I not really. I can see like this idea of RT Esports. I've chosen to go for a little bit of I don't want to say passive approach, but they plan to hold bootcamp as compared to want to be the only team there in bootcamp. It does happen, and because there's no way they would tell me they didn't hear those shots. They definitely heard the fights going through, but maybe they're not able to keep up with the fights that they went out to do this part of bootcamp. It is down to their plan, and you can already start to see it work out a little bit for them as Vanguard would be the ones getting uprooted from vehicles now. They'll be losing QG first, and now Vanguard forced to play with a 3-man.
Getting forced to play as three. It's not the way that Vanguard, I'm pretty sure it's not the way they wanted to start the games today, but it is what it is for them. And it looks like Unsullied Army, on the bottom right of your screens, it looks like they will be trading off against the guys from Vibe. They did get a knock through. And hopefully they will be rethinking their options going forward. But it looks like Vibe will be pushing this though. It's crazy that this guy is wearing an Unsullied Army jersey and he's about to eliminate Unsullied Army. Oh, that's going to be diabolical. That will be one for the books. But unfortunately for him, it is a 2 versus 1. But again, it could change everything here. Layla swaying back and forth, and Sarge is over there on the beat and gets dropped away onto the left-hand side, and that will be clutch. Vibe, all the way Vibe. And he's rocking that Unsullied Army jersey with pride as he sends Unsullied Army back into the lobby.
The person that took out Unsullied Army happened to be the only person wearing an Unsullied Army jersey. But anyway, Unsullied Army going out in what place was that? In 11th place there. I was about to say I do not get how Unsullied Army is losing that fight. I was looking at that fight earlier, and it did seem like they had that upper hand really on the fight there with Vibe Gaming. But Vibe Gaming, one player, nameless, able to take out this idea of Unsullied Army. It does look like boot camp happens to be where everybody wants to be right now, as we're starting to see swimmers swim. We're starting to see movements come through. 14th Gaming going for a 2-2 split. Very interesting one. Keeping 2 players on the other side of the island and keeping the remaining 2 on the mainland here, which has the boot camp. And with that position that 14th Gaming seem to be holding, if they're able to get Kesha and Villain to form up again on the team, I expect or I see a very good game coming through from them, because they would have those shorelines. No one's going to be behind them, and they will be able to take out pretty much anyone who is eventually going to have to be forced to leave boot camp.
Yeah, I mean, athlete game, I saw them collapsing. I don't know why the rotation took so long. They were attacking in the blue. Like, there's certain teams that when you see their playstyle, you know that, okay, yeah, there's like a lot of work to be done because you can't be rotating in Sandhawk like it's Erangel you're playing, dog. Phase 5 of the circle and you're still out in the blue zone. Come on, man. You gotta understand that this is not Erangel where your rotation can take some time. And Crusader gets the drop on Artichoke there. RFT in trouble again. If you don't punish the ops will punish you later on. But that's a big drop from Creed. S12K straight to the chest there. And Danny Brown is gonna be feeling it as he will be sent back into the lobby. Monkey pops a grenade over to that right hand side, just over the top, and has to be careful. Monkey will try again. Is a good angle being held by Vanguard deep in the dugout here. If they can hold on, it could prove something very special for them. Ecstasy still in a very, very unlikely position here. Dax goes out to the play zone, and the Moja Gaming are slowly but surely preying in from that southern side. But right now, as it stands, Crowns, Arab T
Ooh.
back to full strength.
All right, things have changed, especially for the side of 14th Gaming. The zone has not gone in their favor. This time, PUBG Mobile gods have said, you know what? Zone shall be going into the boot camp. Make that Afro Esports. All the ones on the shorelines here with 14th Gaming with Kesh starting to lead the charge. 8 eliminations that the team already has, and we're starting to see grenades fly. I feel like the side of 14th Gaming really need to push up onto this fight, try to get that team out, and then that way they know that they're a little bit assured as they try to eventually make their cross into the boot camp.
Yeah, that would be the wiser choice. It would be the better choice regardless, because Afro Esports is going to be a very, very tough nail to crack. And that is a team that can easily hold their own, at least for the most part of the circle. But Vanguard, they are still under serious amounts of pressure from Arab T and the Crusader as well. Arab T now creeping up slowly but surely, and they are trying to take away this position. They are as playing completely as forward. 14th Gaming on the other side as well. They are trying to find their way inside of boot camp, and it's looking like the pressure will continue to mount. Unfortunately, Vanguard, that decision of them to go inside of the dugout, it could hurt them going forwards. But it looks like Umoja Gaming will fall to the sword, and Afro Esports will be down to one. And it looks like it's Neo that's keeping their flag flying high.
And this is where it starts to get sad because Vanguard Esports didn't really have to find themselves in the dugout there. They could have third partied the fight for RT and Ecstasy when it was going on, when they had that back and forth. They could have come in for the third party, but unfortunately they happened to be looting in the dugout. Zone does close up smaller again, and 14th Gaming do end up getting the day. They have the advantage, but the question is, how do they seem to do it? And it looks like they are going for a sweep of the entirety of boot camp as we're starting to see them go from building to building. 10-11 Ecstasy next in line as they lose one. It's going to be none other but Crusader. Amarzinho in a lot of trouble as Vanguard and RT Sports seem to want to get started. Cash leading the charge. RT loses one. Chairs pushes in, gets down by the DBS, but his teammate is there for support. 48 from 10. Oh, sorry, make that 14th Gaming. They cannot stop now. They have to keep going, and Vanguard really needs to complete this fight. Artichoke trying to hold on the end, but he's not able to do it as the artist. Brilliant player that we did see from yesterday. He might have to make some big calls here. Do I want to go over the bridge or not? The third artist creeping in now as Vanguard lose one more. Choke. Last player left, or sorry, make that artist the last one left to hold on the fourth quarter. RT Sports have to deal with a lot. They are dealing with two teams as 10-11 continue. Or make that 14th game continue to go.
Yeah, it's looking very interesting here. Kesh sways from side to side as he drops the DBS on the opposition, and that will be a wrap. Beautifully done, absolutely clean finish. I mean, you know, we always talk about it. It's all about your plan. It's all about your execution. Arab T had a plan, but 14th Gaming were ready. And take a look at that. The squad of the moment, they were next level, and they finished very, very strongly. Got themselves that chicken dinner. I mean, I saw it in the way they were progressing the game. They were doing everything right up until that final one. But again, I think this was more Arab T's game. They just got caught lacking. They took too much time to decide. But at the end of the day, we got ourselves here 15 eliminations now. 15 eliminations is no small feat, Crowns. This is a big number coming through from 14 Gaming. I think with that, I think they may even just have catapulted themselves to second place.
Yeah, definitely. That is enough to boost them up the top of the leaderboard. Question is by how much. But yeah, nonetheless, I don't think RT Sports would have won that game in any chance. That position that 14th Gaming were holding outside of bootcamp was a little too strong. From when they were just the only ones on the shorelines to when moved into bootcamp, and then pushing into bootcamp, they had all the time and they chose to go for a sweep, and that sweep indeed worked out very well for them. RT Sports, on the other hand, sadly got overwhelmed by two different teams. It gets harder when you start to look at situations like that. But nonetheless, they did do their work as we look at the head-to-head between 14th and RT Sports.
All right, so Fire is here. So Fire, take it away.
Amazing gameplay coming through right there from 14th Gaming as well as Arab Esports. Now, 14th has definitely started to gather momentum. As you see them with 9 knocks and 15 eliminations to their name, they got a whooping ass amount of damage with 2074 right there. Total points they gathered was 25 in that game, and it was some amazing gameplay coming through from them. A lot of teams really got close to turning things around. Even Art came quite close, but 14 just at the end of the day was able to scale through. The question now is, can this help them flip the script and continue on with this momentum to rise up on that leaderboard? All right, so our MVP for this particular game is none other than 94K right there. 6 eliminations for himself as well as 1 assist in that game. He got 683 damage, and he was quite crucial for them getting into that final spot. Great job from him. It was such a difficult task, especially in that late game. A lot of teams to deal with, but you know when you have someone like him and you can count on him to come through for your team. All right, so what does that do when it comes to all, or what does that say when it comes to this game and all the players who were going toe to toe and pushing through? You can see right there, number 1 and number 2 spots. It is both VLAN and 98K respectively, but followed just behind them is that man Kamazinho. Now, of course, we saw before the game started, he was sitting down on 30 eliminations, leading by a large number. So regardless of the fact that he was the MVP in this particular game and they didn't win the game, he still managed to increase his tally with 4. But you can not definitely run out Vibe 3 as well as Final Boss, who got 4 eliminations for themselves each. All right, so what does that say on the leaderboard? It is 14 Gaming grabbing the total maximum amount of points in that game with 25. Arab T coming in the second place with 11, but just look at 10-11 XTC once again getting 10 points from that game. And my goodness, they just keep on gathering those points up on the leaderboard. I thought a bunch of teams were going to try early on to take them out, and Vanguard was making that push early on. Kudos to them for going into boot camp and taking the fight to 10-11. We'll love to see more of that. We'd love to see more of them, trying as much as possible to, go at the champions, go at the guys who are number 1 on that spot. But moving on to the grand finals overall top players, that man Kamazinho keeps on putting in the work. 4 extra eliminations in this game, and he is sitting down in that number 1 spot. Now, of course, the MVP of this game is currently also trying to see if he can reduce that gap between him and Kamazinho, sitting down with 11 eliminations to now. He's boosted himself not just all the way into that top 5, but into the number 2 spot as well. But you can rule out 7 as well, sitting down with 13 eliminations as well, I didn't get to talk about the other 2 players, but we'll move quickly into the overall leaderboard. Sitting now with 95 points right now, it is XTC. They also have increased their numbers in the lobby. In fact, I would say that they actually have increased the gap between the first and the second going into this game. So the question is, can other teams catch up? It is almost 40 points between them. It is 38 points between the first and the second. So the question is, are we even fighting for who's going to win right now? Or are we going to see 14 Gaming, 3C, Art all step things up, increase the momentum, and get all those points to boost himself all the way into that number 1 spot? It's going to be a tough challenge. We'll find out in the next games to come pretty soon. Right, guys, momentum is everything in a game like this, and right now, 14 Gaming has it. They've won the game. They've somehow gotten themselves into that third position. In fact, I do think they have about the same points with Three Crowns, who's sitting down in second, but there's still a massive gap between them and all the way that number one, 10, 11 XTC. So the question is, can they somehow reduce that gap and do the same thing they did here? If they get maximum points once again, and if somehow a team tries to take out 10, 11 early, we could see things now begin to turn on its head. Will we see that? We'll find out pretty soon as we join Crowns and Priests.
You are muted, Crowns is the audio that I have heard, and you guys once again have seen me. For those of you who know how to lip sync, you would know that I was saying that the next game is about to be absolute fire. How are you feeling about this next game, Priest?
Yeah, you're right. I think it's going to be very interesting. We saw how the last game ended. 14th Gaming stepping up to the plate. They turned things up, but still Ecstasy still managed some points up there. So they just need to be consistently managing some points up there. They don't need to, I don't think they need to do anything crazy anymore. But the ball is really in the court of these other teams if they want to allow Ecstasy run away with it. Me personally, I think you just have to have a plan now. You have to have something you're fighting for, like you always say. You have to have something. You have to know where you are and see what you can make out of it going forwards. But hopefully, I think this map that's coming next. I think one of these teams may have a plan, and I think it's going to be Three Crown Esports.
I mean, we really look forward to that. I mean, we're looking at the side of 10-11 XTC. We do know them to pick up form when we look at that map of Sandhawk, and seeing that we've played the only Sandhawk for today, and they've not really made, I don't want to say they've not made the most out of it, because I mean, they still finished like in the top three. So it's like they've gotten those points. So you kind of almost feel like, I hope, they don't pick up on another game, because normally we would see that middle game be Sandhawk, and then when they win that Sandhawk, they use that to boost their attitude going into the remainder of the games.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, and I think this is something that you just pointed out now. Sandhawk, where Sandhawk is placed, during the map schedule, Sandhawk is the first game today, and they didn't necessarily perform at the best level. They did have a bad performance, but we already keep them at some kind of level when they are playing. So it's just gonna be very different starting the day off with Sandhawk, and they did get some good points there, but compared to the points they've had in the past, it's a little bit trickier for them. But now we're going to see it. Miramar, there's stronger teams in Miramar. We've got Afro Esports that have known to be very solid in Miramar. 14 Gaming as well, and the likes of Three Crown Esports, even Vanguard, and Four Portions as well. There's a lot of teams. Neon Rising, there's a lot of teams good in Miramar. Is there any team particularly that you want to be, you want us to look out for?
I mean, you've pretty much said them all. Like, those are teams that we've seen perform well on the map of Miramar there. Three Crown being one of those teams that also performs quite all right on Miramar. But I think this is where we start to see the attitude change between the side of Three Crown and 14th Gaming, because it's like, okay, now there's someone on your tail, even for second place. If at all, first position is already starting to look, out of range. We're looking at like 43, 42 points difference between yourself and first position. And well, as you said, Miramar is one of the games that 10-11 also tend to do well on. So it's like, how do you, at this point, it's like you can't even focus on trying to prevent 10-11 XTC from getting any more points. You just have to hope that somehow, some way, 10-11 XTC are not able to gather many points in the next coming games.
Yeah, I think you're right about that one. It's really a matter of how many. Is it really a matter of can I at least outdo Ecstasy in this game? Let's hope that Ecstasy just doesn't do as good as me in this game. And then you now have to start doing the math of the point differences. I did 15. I hope Ecstasy do 4 or 5 or
Zero,
something
not
along those
even
lines.
4.
Exactly, because at this stage, can they do 0? I don't think they can. I really don't think XSC can go out of the game without getting any points, if I'm being honest. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they've understood most of the teams in the lobby, so I think they just can't put themselves in that position to get 0 points.
All right, another thing that we spoke about was 14th Gaming. We already see them making camp out there in Picado, where they seem to have landed early. The zone, on the other hand, is up the north this time. That playing path was somewhere down around that south eastern edge of the map, but now the zone has gone up towards the north, favoring places like Torre Ahumada, Cruz de Valle, the water treatment, and Hacienda del Patron. And this is where it starts to get a little bit tricky because we don't know where this zone could potentially shift to. This is one of those zones that I think is going to have one of those very hard shifts, Priest.
Yeah, I think so as well. A hard shift in a Miramar is always going to be very diabolical. You expect things like this in Erangel and Sandhawk, and you're always ready to deal with it when it comes. But in Miramar, there's hills and valleys, so that makes it all the more tricky. It takes away a lot of options for some of these teams that don't know how to navigate high ground positions. But as it stands, Three Crown Esports, they're looking good. They're looking strong. Cloud is back in the mix. They are now full strength. I think he made all the difference in the previous game for them. I think if Cloud was available, I think Three Crowns would have performed better. Or what do you think?
And this is where Three Crown would really, I completely agree with you. And this is where this idea of Three Crown esports really would start to look at those micro mistakes. Because when you're going up teams like, because now it would almost sound as if someone is glazing, right? But then when you're looking at this idea of 10-11 ecstasy, this is a team that they would capitalize on your mistakes. You make one simple mistake, one misplay, you don't like, for what it's worth, yesterday we saw it. It was just one bad game from Three Crown Esports. One bad game from Three Crown Esports, and 10-11 just, boom, they're 30 points ahead of you. So, when you're coming into day two and you're loading in only three players, these are not situations you want to put yourself in, because it's almost like you're intentionally putting yourself at a disadvantage against such good teams.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're absolutely right because it's really what it's about. You have to capitalize on the downfall of your ops. Any opportunity that your ops make any mistakes, you just can't let it slide. And that is where Ecstasy tend to dominate. Oh, that's a beautiful shot. Trade off is good. Solo gets the drop immediately with the DBS. He doesn't stop. 1 HP, but he doesn't stop. Umoja Gaming could be in trouble now, and Solo has been able to hold the line down for 4 portions. This could be the opportunity for them to send Umoja Gaming back into the lobby. But Umoja Gaming, I think they are in a little bit of a split. So this could be very, very diabolical for them. But unfortunately, I think Naruto is back up and Solo could capitalize on this. And 4 portions could use this to catapult themselves back into that top three.
And this is very surprising. We don't often see a case where Los Leones would have two teams and both teams would go up against each other, especially this early into the game. For what it's worth, nobody seems to have completely looted up. Los Leones happens to be a place that I say, if split correctly, it would successfully accommodate at least three teams. And then seeing two teams land in the same spot over here in Los Leones, for me, it's just very baffling. And I don't even seem to understand what is happening here between 4 portions and this idea of Umoja Gaming.
Yeah, you're right. Because personally, I would think that, in a game where everybody eats, there's still people that's going to be starving. And in this Los Leones is huge. It's huge. You can accommodate at least 12 players if we're being for real. But I don't know. Somehow, Umoja Gaming and 4 portions just run into each other. But looks like somebody's going down here. Somebody is going down here. Nobody's going to let this slide. Somebody's going down here. One team is going to take a major hit here, and it's going to be a big shift for them because right now the distance between these two teams, 4 portions and Umoja Gaming is roughly just 7 points. 4 eliminations will change the entire narrative for either of these teams.
And this is where it doesn't make sense, right? Because I'm looking at 4 portions. You've gotten your revives back up. You guys do not have so much in terms of utils. They have one player on the off angle. They can literally form up on that player. This is Los Leones. The reason why you can form up on the players is because it is compiled and made up of so many buildings. When you start to have buildings, you can turn your way, move from building to building, so you completely disengage from this fight. Pushing upstairs this building, you already know as 4 portion is a very bad idea, especially in this world of DPS that we're living in. Get your men together, fall back a little bit. Los Leones is not even in the zone.
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly, because I think it ties into how most of the teams here are, they're stationed. Because I can still see Solo, he's low HP. He has been low HP since that initial engagement, and it hasn't changed. And at that point, that really directly points into what you said. They're low on utils. This is not a good fight to take. It is not a good engagement. There is no, there's no plus side to this, except Umoja Gaming get caught lacking, and they need to be caught lacking really, really badly for Four Portions to capitalize on this. Peachy is still on the ground floor dancing. Makosa, he has still not made a move. Solo is still 1 HP, dancing around on the
Mm-hmm.
ground floor. Now Egusi gets the drop on him, and he's going to be sent back into the lobby.
Yep, and then that's the first now coming through from the side of Umoja Gaming. They did have Egusi on that little bit of an off angle, and I want him to just you see that there's that tip that you can go and just fall back towards Skinny's position. The blow zone is going to eventually take out Solo. It's going to make these things easy for the side there of of Umoja Gaming, but Solo does seem to want to take at least one player alongside himself, make that two as he does find the second knock, but now nobody else from the side of Four Portions to form up. And of course, it is now Skinny starts to disengage from the fight. Please, cast your people.
Well, like I said, it's going to hurt someone. Someone is going to be hurt with this. It looks like his Four Portions is going to be hurt. 42 points on the board, and all they had to add in this game was one extra point. It is not the best way for them to kick this game off at all, and it's going to hurt them going forwards. They didn't necessarily have a very good game, in Sandhawk, and it looks like they are going to continue on that path coming into Miramar as well. And Ecstasy, on the other hand, they're rotating, they're making moves. I think they've already studied which positions to make their rotations from. You can see them just holding in from that southern side, but it looks like they might be running into Three Crown Esports. Now, this would be a sight for sore eyes if these two teams were to lock in Minas Generales this early in the game.
I feel like the side of Three Crown Esports might disengage from that fight, but definitely it is going to be one side. We saw, and we've seen how great the fight could be. We saw these two teams go against each other yesterday as well in the map of Miramar. We also, it's pretty much a sight when you see a good team go up against another good team. I mean, we saw Neon Rising go up against 10-11 Ecstasy yesterday as well, and that was also one fight that was just very interesting to watch. And speaking of things that are interesting to watch, it is definitely looking like it's getting started.
Yeah, he's getting started. The party's getting started, but Merrick gets a drop on Danny Brown, the shotgun central, and it starts to hurt right now. Easy for 7. Trying to hold the lines there. Molotov cocktail is dropped, but here comes Amar to the rescue. And can they pick up Danny Brown? Three Crown Esports, for sure. They know it's 10-11 now. They know it's Ecstasy, and Danny Brown cannot be getting picked up. It's a tricky spot right now. Jump shot over the top side is good, but unfortunately it doesn't make it happen. 7 gets dropped away. Three Crown Esports now, they might just be able to capitalize on this. Danny Brown and Easy for 7 have been knocked away. Three Crown Esports, this could be the opportunity for them to make something happen. Merrick low on HP, gets his HP back up, but Nexus hasn't been picked up yet. Another grenade tossed over. An unfortunate scenario, he will be flushed. Three Crown Esports getting dropped away. Amar falls immediately as well. Now there's trouble. Ecstasy crumble under Three Crown Esports, and it is Quilla that sends Amar back into the lobby. Crusader will not be leading any crusade tonight.
And this is where things start to get good. This idea of Three Crown Esports, how do you think they're feeling right now? 5 eliminations to the name. 10-11 happens to be 3 out of those eliminations. You're feeling pumped, you're feeling good, because now it's like, yes, maybe we might be able to catch up to them, but, Crusader is going to be the one person to try to salvage some more points, make things harder. And I feel like at this point, Crusader's only mission in this entire game is to just play spoiler for anybody he feels like.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the objective, just see how far you can take this game. The pressure is not existent right now for Ecstasy. Unless the next game goes exactly like this, then they might be in for a world of something. But it looks like Neon Rising about to deal damage to Unsullied Army here. SARS on the beat. He crashes into him. And then Layla also crashes in to join a piece of the party then, and looks like Mornax will get the drop on Layla. Tries to go for the drop. Layla again, switch over to the right-hand side. Drop shot is good. Was that with a mini 14? My goodness, Layla almost getting dropped off, and that will be good night. But that was a beautiful play coming through. DYDX again, too far away. We've seen this from Unsullied Army again and again, too far away. Why are they splitting? Why do you play so far? It takes too much. It takes a lot.
If Unsullied Army is watching, I just want you to understand, the YDX, if you're watching this is not an off angle. And I think that's the only thing I'm going to say. That is not an off angle. You're too far away from your teammate.
You're too far, man.
The people your teammates are fighting are barely rendering on your 3x. That's a
Come
three
on,
times
man.
scope there, and they're barely
do
rendering.
you, do you know
That's
the
not an
do you
off
know the
angle. I was gonna
crazy
say.
thing? This is exactly
Hmm.
this is what happened yesterday as well against Arab T. It was still DYDX. He was the last guy, and he was not. He was far away, thinking he was in an off angle. Then he now went on to face three players from Arab T after all his teammates had been eliminated. It's the same thing. You can't play like that. Not against a team like Neon Rising. You cannot offer three players in the wind that you can't cover, you can't protect. It's the same thing, we always talk about. It's not an off angle. An off angle crowns, please.
Rah. Ah, that is not an off angle. That is just a little too far. And I'm just choosing to point out the off angle. There's a lot of other things that went wrong in that push. I mean, we're looking at that crash that came through. That, once again, I don't even want to say that was not a crash. That was an accident. Because, like, what is going on? Locking. Anyway, and speaking of locking in, it does look like Vibe Gaming will be locked in towards the side of Three Crown on the southern side of the circle. Looks like they do not want Three Crown to make it into the circle or make it into that next circle or make next zone. I'm sorry. And speaking of zone, this is Umoja Gaming having bicycle as their last resort to rotate out of that. I don't want to say pointless fights there in Los Leones, but they got 3 elims.
I mean, yeah, 3 Liam's big boost for them. They're starting really strong. It looks like Vibe will be the ones this time trying to play a little bit of a spoiler for Three Crown Esports. This could be very, very, very crucial for them. Three Crown Esports, with the momentum that they currently have, this is not the way I would have expected their game to go on after eliminating, the guys from Ecstasy. But it looks like Vibe is going to be the one to stop them. This is a tricky, tricky turnout
Yep.
and a good trade-off. Ling Ling peeks out. He takes his HP all the way down. Nexus again will crash the party, and Ling Ling will have to suffer the consequences of eliminating one of the guys from Three Crown Esports. Again, if you're gonna commit, you gotta commit full time, and that is exactly what Three Crown Esports have decided to do.
Yep, and I'm gonna tell the other side, the guys there from Vibe Gaming as well. That is not an off angle. Monkey on fire, and it's only a matter of time before Monkey does get knocked. The knock is found, and the rest of Vanguard now they have to stay on their toes as RT Sports coming crashing. Greed, he cannot quite find a parking spot. Stop, get out of the vehicle. Takes no damage. Is interesting, and he makes it into the building now. Stop looting and fight. Yep. Yeah, definitely. RT Sports, not a team that we did see show us a lot, especially in those league stages. But right now, they are still to step up the game. Currently seated in 4th position. You do know that blood really is pumping. But then they're down by 1 player in Creed. It does look like a revive might be possible, but currently seeming to be hung in between or stuck in between two teams, the side of Harsh Esports and a little bit of Afro Esports on the background.
Yeah, I think Afro Esports do have an opportunity to turn things around, but I would be impressed at Arab T if they can maintain their momentum so far. Like I said, they have been going under the radar. They have been having a very, very solid game since yesterday. There's a big gap in that top three spot that they can capitalize and take right now. They're currently one point shy of getting into the 50s, and that puts them into a very, very nice spot. They have all their players up. Three Crown Esports have a little bit of a mountain to climb still, because now they are only playing as two. 14th Gaming have been also going very quiet in this game, but I'm seeing that I think they would just start to turn up maybe by zone 4 and zone 5.
Yeah, definitely. And, I did mention something about that circle at the beginning of the game. This is one of those Miramar circles that for sure you would get that hard shift. And indeed, we've gotten that hard shift as that zone does go up to the north. And I think once every team, or well, I'm hoping that teams, once they find their footing in this next circle, that is when we start to see a little bit of carnage. I think that's what the side there of RT Esports we're waiting on, for the entirety of the game so far. Oh, sorry, make that 14th gaming, sorry.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. But then, there's still a lot of options. There's still a lot of different ways this game can go. And Hershey
Hmm.
Sports, as it stands, currently sitting at four. But it's very interesting to note that there's only one team that has been eliminated so far. It's only Vanguard. That's the only team that has been sent back into the lobby. There's still 15 teams in the cut. There's still 36 players somehow. So that tells you that, yeah, I think between yesterday and today, I think most of these teams have picked up a couple of things. And look at that spray touch. Will touch all the way up towards that northern side. The church will not protect you. There's only so much you can do. Touch will touch you in any distance, in any area, in any corner. And Tribe Warriors will utilize this, but I don't think it's going to yield anything. They're still too far out, and the play zone is going to be a big decider on their next run of play.
Yep, and that's what we were talking about earlier, when we saw that next zone shift. But now we're waiting for yet another, and it's going to hard again. Hard shift towards that eastern side. Tribe Warriors do have a position, and the same thing can be said about Neon Rising. Whoever is able to capitalize on that position, currently being held by Ecstasy and Vibe Gaming, or if that was a full team, that would have been also another great spot to find yourself in the circle. But now the questions has been thrown to the IGLs as we see a lot of these teams get into their vehicles and begin to commence elimination.
Yeah, you're right. The rotations are very key going forward, but it looks like Tribe Warriors looks like they want to commit to a little bit of this. They like the taste of blood. They did get a drop on one of the guys from Neon Rising, and that was enough to invite them to just come a little closer, take a little bit of a closer look at this high ground position and see if they can wrest it away from Neon Rising. But I don't think that's going to be the case. It's going to take a lot from them because I think it's pretty balanced out. It's a three versus three, so it could hurt them if they decide to climb up this hillside. But Harshi Sports might be the team that is going to be deciding to do this, and 411 has to circle back. He's been spotted by more Stees, and Neon Rising, again, we've talked about them. They are very solid defensively in Miramar. This could be an opportunity for them to rise to the ranks and add more points.
Exactly. 6 eliminations that they've already been able to accrue at the moment. They're currently seated in the center of the circle. How well can they defend? We know they can do it well, but once again, you would get questioned every single game of PUBG Mobile that you played, and now it's always down to how you choose to answer. Hershey Sports, another team who seems to be heading towards the center of the circle, and well, today is not Sunday, but everybody seems to want to be around the church.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's coming here to see if their prayers can get answered and see if they can get that chicken dinner. But I don't think that's going to be the case here. Touch will have to hold
Ah.
this line. And I think they are going to be playing neighbors for a while, just getting a little bit of a feel of each other from the high ground and the low ground. Because Neon Rising are in a much tougher spot than the guys from Tribe Warriors. They have Vibe, they have Hashi Sports, and I think they might just have Umoja Gaming creeping up somewhere around as well. Also, Ragnar up onto that northern side. Again, there's a lot of opposition in this area. Neon Rising, they really need to pray that the play zone does not force them out of this area because it's going to be a hard rotation to make. And that is going to be the end of the road for Ecstasy as Atarudo will close the gap once again to that top spot from Ecstasy.
I'm just going to double down on what you said earlier because really it is impressive to be looking at right now. There's 33 players alive, and then there's still 14 teams still battling for it. It just goes to show like that change has come through from yesterday going into today. I don't want to assume it's because of the kind of zone that we have, but then we're definitely seeing teams try even more to survive. I mean, we're looking at Ragnar with one player, or make that two players left, even though they're heavily far away. This idea of Umoja Gaming also having just one player to hold on the fort for themselves. We're looking at RT Sports, they still have three, but then we're seeing teams just be able to hold on even as a duo or as a solo, and that'll be Three Crown Esports completely getting eliminated as well.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. But Three Crown Esports bowing out to their injuries but then they put a lot of work in. Like you said, they did capitalize a little bit. It's still not the performance, they would have liked, owing to the fact that Ecstasy only got 1 point out of this. This would have been a very, very big chance for them to close that gap, but it looks like they did manage what they could do, and it just had to turn out for them. But Kenny will reiterate with the rest of his team. They're trying to get I believe, I don't know who that was that got knocked away there. I think it was
Wukong.
Wukong, and they are trying to get their numbers back up. Again, Vibe have been quite solid when it comes to holding a little bit of a high ground position. But now the play zone is not favorable for them, so they will need to find their way around, the likes of Neon Rising. It's going to hurt them. I'm pretty sure that rotation is going to hurt because this is phase 5 of the circle. Every decision from this moment is life or death.
And just in case you're watching Vibe Invincibles or well, Vibe No Names position, that is an off angle. Anyway, but yeah, it is true what you say. They are pretty hurt as it stands, having one player already down. But then that rotation, the next rotation they have to make has to be one that they would have to think about. I would suggest like a full on crash onto the side of Tribe Warriors. They just send it straight into Tribe Warriors and try to take the fights with them. But I'm keeping my eye out to see how Vibe Gaming would choose to play this game. 4 portions, we do see them going out as we're now down to the final 11 teams left in the lobby.
Ooh, that was a solid grenade over to Francis there. Ragnar trying their best, but that will be the end of athlete game. Again, this is something that is going to, a lot of teams may not like to hear, but there are certain games that you just can't be reactionary. You have to be proactive. We saw Athlete Game do this exact same thing in Sanhok, rotate, 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 then get caught out in the final third. We saw them in phase 5. If you realize, Athlete Game did get knocked out of the game in phase 5 of the previous game. That's to show you that that is their strategy. Rotate late, make it slow and steady, no matter the map. You have to factor all these things in, and I think that's what has hurt Athlete Game right now. They've tried it 2 times. It hasn't worked out. They're getting caught out by teams that are already inside of the zone because those teams have been proactive. And, I think that is the idea here. You just have to be proactive. You cannot allow the play zone to decide for you.
Definitely, you cannot. But speaking of the play zone has said who can fight. That is the question that the play zone has thrown. Grenades being launched out towards Fronesses, and I believe Harsh player. He knows there's definitely a player in there, but they're just thinking of the best way to take out that player. But nonetheless, the zone did favor this idea of Tribe Warriors, and they have a very solid. Well, I don't say solid. They have solid cover. Let me put it that way. But now this is where it's gonna start to become a case of how well can they hold that, because every defense or that little building that they are is under a hill. So, teams can really look down to see what is going on. So, Tribe Warriors would be forced to fight from inside the house, and I don't know how many eliminations they would be able to accrue that way.
Yeah, I don't see them stacking a lot of eliminations from that position. It's going to take too much effort, too much resources to keep that on. Vibe as well. I think they have been cut down to just one. 14th Gaming are loving this right now. They are in a split and they're enjoying this ample position. They're keeping tabs on majority of the teams that are trying to find themselves inside of that zone. Neon Rising with the exact same idea, with the exact same thought. But I think it's the teams that are sitting on the high ground like Tribe Warriors that could hang on at least into the next stage of the circle. But take a look at the number of bodies in this circle right now. Crowns Vibe crashing the party, but 98K will say goodbye and good night, and that's going to be the end of the road for Vibe Gaming. But they did put up one hell of a fight. 4 eliminations is not a bad one for them at all.
Definitely, and they would get a little bit of placement points to also go alongside it. But the Unrising are in the church now as they are facing it off against this idea of Tribe Warriors. No knocks has been found just yet, but they are all still relaxing. Tribe Warrior, they do have the height advantage as we mentioned earlier. The zone centers up quite nicely, so everyone is still in that circle, but you're going to have to move. The church is in the circle, but not every part of the church. Intro knock has been found. More steez. Drops down, drop from the side there of Tribe Warriors, and now here comes the rest of Neon Rising. Or maybe not, because they also have to tend to injuries.
Yeah, they have to tend to injuries. More Steez. He is the front man, and that comes with some risks. He did get knocked away there, but that they do have an opportunity to deal with the guys from Tribe Warriors, because I believe that is their biggest up right now. If they can wrest control from this entire church area, it will get the job done. More Chicks turns his back to the opposition and gets punished immediately there. That's trouble now. Tribe Warriors have turned this around. Another one to the corner, but More Steez is still alive. He tries to wrap it up, but Kiss will blow him the kiss of death, and that will be a back-to-back loss for Neon Rising. Again, they fall into temptation and they get punished at the Chapel of Miramar.
And it doesn't end there. 14th Gaming heard the noise and they want a little piece of the action. Afro Esports, the same thing can be said. We said as well. As we see Nago coming in through from behind. This idea of 14th already prepping those grenades. Pace is in a lot of trouble, but he's going to be able to stand up on the villain and take him out. He is playing superhero right now. Instant thirst to follow. Harsh Esports trying to find their way into the vicinity as Uguay drops a lot of HP. 14th Gaming starting to get overwhelmed from different angles, and it's a question of how well can they hold up.
Yeah, we've talked about Afro Esports, but the grenades are flying from end to end, from side to side. 411 is trying his best.
Correct.
Oh, what a grenade that was! Another grenade
Correct.
and another grenade. 98K will crash the party. And 14th Gaming is all about them right now. They trade off. Grope trying to close this one now. Master Ugwe, can he turn this around with the DBS? He tried to crush it in, bends over to the right hand side, but
That's a good name.
unfortunately, it's not a job done. He's going to be swept away. Afro Esports, they hear the commotion going on and they want a piece of the action as well. The numbers are not working right now. 98K losing the high ground advantage, and that will be a clutch actual play. And Afro Esports, there's their game. Miramar, we said it, is their game now. 3 versus 1. It's all a wrap, and Afro Esports will seal the deal, and they were just lying in wait.
The game called for patience, and Afro Esports said we have a lot of that. Got themselves about 6 or 7 eliminations, as well as the chicken dinner. Talk about a way to play this game. Really enjoyed the way they pushed in onto that fight, waited for everyone to take the fight, did a little bit of third-party action here and there, put a whole lot of trouble in the bodies really of Tribe Warriors and 14th Gaming, and fortunately for them, they were able to grab themselves the winner chicken dinner. We toss it over to Fire to give us a breakdown of what has just happened in this game.
All right, so it's not been quite the best tournaments for Afro Esports, but maybe this time around, with this winner chicken dinner, things could definitely flip for them, and they could boost their way up on that leaderboard. 6 eliminations to the team. They did manage to come back. For a moment there, I thought 14th was actually going to take it, but that clutch just came in quite handy, for Afro Esports at the end of the day. All right, 57 eliminations in that game. What a massive, massive game coming through. But did you guys see that nade? I mean, we had 5 nades in this game, but that one nade from 14, I'm not sure which player that was. I can't really remember, but that nade going into Hash Esports, definitely taking 2 guys out at the same time, was absolutely outstanding. And from that moment, I thought 14 was going to go through and seal that game, but yeah, just wouldn't be. They still got some points though, so we'll see. We'll see what that means for the leaderboard. Okay, so going head to head between Afro Esports as well as Tribe. Afro Esports getting 6 eliminations in this one, as well as Tribe getting 7, respectively. Okay, so now we see our MVP of the night. It is Neon More Nax, getting himself 4 eliminations and 2 assists in that particular game. He got 5 knocks, so definitely he could have had a lot more than he probably did. So great kudos to him getting those. We saw some great action coming through from them, and I do believe that apart from that unfortunate event, they could have actually done more in that particular game. But the top players of the game, of course, it is More Nax as well as Hash player, respectively, getting 4 eliminations together. 98K again adding to his tally from 14th Gaming, getting 5 eliminations alongside with his teammate Ugwe and More Steez getting totally 5, 2 and 3 respectively, total of 5 between them. All right, moving on to the leaderboard, we do have 16 points going down to Afro Esports, who have been struggling throughout the tournament, as we did mention before. We'll see what this 16 point means for them on that leaderboard. But going in second place, it is Tribe sitting down with 13 eliminations, as well as 14 Gaming with 13. Now, them getting 13 eliminations does quite mean a lot, because considering the fact that they were sitting down in 3rd place, I do believe this takes them above 3 crowns at the end of the day. We'll see what that means up on that leaderboard pretty soon. But going into our overall top players, it is, of course, still that man, Amazinho, who is sitting down with 35 points. But that gap is beginning to look a bit more respectful, as My man, 98k from 14 Gaming is beginning to reduce that deficit. Sitting down with 18 eliminations to his name, he's now reduced it to 17. Okay, now considering the fact that he started from a gap of 20 when the game started today, that's a lot better. We'll see if that continues, but we can still rule out other players like Ukwe who are sitting down with 13 eliminations. Now, taking a look at the leaderboard, things have begun to shape up quite well. We still got a couple of games to go, but now the gap is reduced from what was really wide before to 26 now, and I think it's doable. If 14 Gaming continues with this pace, they may just be able to close the gap. One win with 20 eliminations, could see them get 30 points. They could even be on top, especially if 10-11 does go out quite early. I love a great underdog story, and considering the fact that they did well during the week, I would love to see them go all the way on top. But you can still rule out other teams such as 3C, who are still within the conversation, as well as Tribe. Look at Nyan boosting himself all the way into that top 6, as well as Arab T. 4P and UG are still in the conversation. I would love to see them do a lot better. I'm a great fan of the player Tinubu, with the power of corruption. We'll see him come through preseason. All right, so great stuff from all of these teams, and it has been quite a game so far. We'll see if 14 Gaming can keep up the pace and continue to reduce the gap between them and XTC when we come back from the break. See you soon.
remember me for centuries.
From CS12, now on the Monday, is not able to use that. Now the Robertson, Demo against Hyper. He needs to clear that hill. The boys in yellow. Hyper finds him, shuts him down. And 340, 10 more seconds through that door. The oil money team are they going to make history? Very first land, very first win. 347, 348. Now the contest. The boys in lead, no way through. And they are going to hold it down. So S are your champions.
But you will remember me for centuries. Remember me for centuries.
Bold, lyrical.
Two sips of Monster Energy. Monstrous.
A happy boy. Energy.
All right, guys. So we've seen a very great game coming so far in game 1 and 2. 14 Gaming tried as much as possible to see if they can reduce the gap between them and the number one spot XTC. We'll find out if they can do that in this game as we go on to Priest and Crowns.
We are big chilling. We are locked in and loaded as we're getting ready to head into at least one map that will give us a little bit of sense, really. And it is none other but the map we all know. It is Erangel. Mirama and Salok have been as chaotic as possible. How are you feeling about Erangel? What do you predict?
You're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, let's just take a breath. Let's just take a breather, man. Let's take a breather because Erangel just, resets everything. Just, gives us a little bit of a chill vibe. A little bit of a baddie here just to use and hold our side. But yeah, we are looking forward to see if somebody's going to do something unorthodox in this game. I think 14th Gaming, they've caught their stride. They're looking very good. They're looking very solid. Can they do more of the same?
They seem to have found that momentum and they will be riding that momentum train up till the very end. Playing path looking very nice, one of the nicest you could ever get in the map here of Erangel, taking us all the way from Stolber Stolber taking us down to the waters and the open lands of, or the open waters of the Sosnovka military island. All playing parts or all drop spots should be accessible. You should be able to land near, comfortable vehicles spawn, and you should be able to make your way through. Severny is empty. And that already makes me feel like there's going to be a hot drop elsewhere, Priest.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. I think sometimes, yeah, we talk about, doing your VOD reviews, doing your VOD reviews, picking up on what the lobby is looking like. But the thing is,
W
sometimes
zone.
you tend to overthink it. Yes, that's exactly why I had that reaction, W zone, because again, you have to think these things through. Seven is empty, but that's where you need to be right now. Seven is empty,
Do
but
you
that is
get?
where you need to be right now. And I feel very bad for teams like Athlete Game and I think what's the other team? I think Ragnar that do love to
Mhm.
play Severny. The one time that they are not there, the zone has centered quite nicely in that spot.
And I think, well, they did do VOD reviews, and maybe that's why they come up to that decision. And this is where decision making. I'm sorry, has to come through quickly because from yesterday's fight, we did not see either Ragnar or the side of Athlete Gaming win the fights that happened in Severny. They did get taken out by the side of, I believe it was 14th Gaming that took them out of Severny, which surprisingly or surprising to see now. I'm trying to look for 14th on the entire map, and I just don't seem to find them. We did see them land around the Rozhok yesterday in the first Erangel game of yesterday, and this is where it starts to get confusing. Like, okay, what are you doing now? We saw them in Rozhok, which was one of the things that contributed to that madness we saw in Rozhok yesterday alongside Neon Rising. But today, opting for a different drop spot, want to see how well that's going to work for them.
Yeah, it is that chicken dinner curse. You get the chicken dinner in the first game, then they start to cook you for the next game. I've seen this play out time and time again. And Afro Esports could be on the relenting side right now. Ling Ling trying to circle back, find an area here. Afro Esports, again, this is not something I expected. Like, this is so random. Afro Esports on Vibe. Like, does this even mean? What brings about these kinds of engagements this early in the game? I mean, and we're just talking about teams, picking up on the lobby, understanding what what the vibe is, and Vibe and Afro Esports just lacking. They're just lacking into each other. I mean, I know Afro Esports do love to play in the the school apartments, and they do a little bit of a split. But this is something I expected Vibe to know. They are at a disadvantage right now. They are, and look at that. Neil gets the drop. They have a player all the way in the apartment that can see this entire area.
Yep, that off angle is off angling at this point, but Vibe Kenny really needs to pull a rabbit out of the hat right now, looking to swing it from the left hand side, but he's taking a lot of damage from Neo. Neo playing around the window very perfectly, and he will be sending Vibe Gaming back and out into the lobby. 15 teams left to go. I finally found 14th Gaming Priest. They are down there in Primorsk this time.
Yeah, they are in Primorsk. Again, that is a shift from what they played yesterday. I think this is we're talking about from yesterday and today, a little bit of a trade there. But it looks like Unsullied Army are taking the initiative. I respect it. I see them. I see the vibe. But can they fully commit, though? Baby gets the drop on, I believe that was Dax, sends him back into the lobby. But is it going to mean much of anything? Again, this is what happens when you don't actually plan anything. So they crash into the party uninvited and they start to get hurt. And it looks like Tribe wants a piece of this one as well. And the trade-off, DX gets knocked out by a moving vehicle, but that's not going to be the case. SAR is on the beat, will beat the ops. Another one getting dropped away. Layla, the last one left for Unsullied Army. This could be a major shift. But right now, Unsullied Army are outgunned and outmanned. Afro Esports looking to pick up the scraps from outside. And it's so interesting there because that is a wrap touch with the final touch, the Midas touch. And that's going to be the end for Unsullied Army. I mean, I respect it. They tried to go out of the box, but it's too early for you to be going out of the box. Standing in the middle of the road, eliminating ops, like, it feels so random.
We thought Erangel was going to be the map that was going to give us a little bit of sense and a little bit of calm vibes, but it looks like reverse is the case. We have started it on an high octane level, and it's not looking like it'll calm down anytime soon. I feel so bad for Unsullied Army because it's like the one time they chose to try the third party fight, even though they went in very late for the third party. But when the one time they chose to go in late for a third party now happens to be the time that Tribe Warriors are feeling like driving away from school. And this is what I was saying about Unsullied Army coming through for that third party a little late, because the only reason why Tribe Warriors are here was because they landed in school and they could hear those shots happening, and then they got into the vehicles and said, what, we're going to come through for a little bit of a third party. Unsullied Army just happening to be around the vicinity, and now they're the one that went out. The people that not came to third party are still alive.
Exactly. And it boils down to knowledge. It boils down to understanding what is going on. Unsullied Army pulled up to the scene. They pulled up they just wanted to crash the party uninvited. But now you have to think about one or two things. Are you also protected from whatever happens out there? Because the baby gets the drop on Dax into the lobby, but he's exposed. There's no protection for him. Because don't forget, the people that you are third partying, the Afro Esports that you are trying to eliminate, don't forget that they are not all in one place. They are in a split. Afro Esports had two guys in the building and one player exposed. You focus on the player exposed, but you didn't cover your bases. You didn't actually make sure that you weren't exposed to the rest of the team. You just pulled up, started shooting, and then Tribe Warriors did the exact same thing to you that you were planning to do to Afro Esports.
Yeah, and I think things would have actually it would have been a case of if at all they didn't get taken out, or if one of their players doesn't get taken out by the side of Tribe Warriors, they would have eventually been taken out by one of the players there from Afro Esports. We did see that player that was on the road, that was trying to well, the first player that they actually took out, that Tribe Warriors, the one he was on the road, he was within the sidelines of some of the players there from Afro Esports, and definitely would have been a way to go. Way to go. Rotations looking to get started. Priest Ecstasy looking to go for a more central rotation in this game. Surprising?
Yeah, very, very surprising. We know them, they are edge and control through and through. We know what they like to play, but I think they are playing according to what this lobby provides. So I really want to see if that works. If it works, you know that yeah, they've hacked it and nothing's gonna stop them. But if it doesn't work, then I'll see that okay, there might be a chance for anything to change up here. But you can see, this is a Yasnaya team, so I think them being in this is very ideal. I think they are going to be centraled up, and then they will start to play a split. Probably see Amar playing up front, and Danny Brown and Easy for Seven will probably play behind him, and they'll just dominate that entire terrain, that entire area. They do not necessarily like to have, like to want to play in buildings. Tribe Warriors with the same idea, same mindset, but again, Tribe Warriors they play much better as a unit. They don't necessarily like to play splits. They're not like those teams. It's 14th gaming that I think would like to play a split. But I think for this type of map, this type of rotation, this type of I think playing a split it would be best for your team right now. In a split.
Yep, please get together as many information or as much information as possible. I like the rotation that has come through from Vanguard. It kind of shows information where they know like they're expecting, which is a good mindset, by the way. They're expecting that they will still, or there will probably be teams around the Severny area that they can third party. And if you're looking at where Vanguard Sports are on the map, you can just see that they're just trying to hold that position out there, just on the outskirts of Severny, being there for any potential third parties. Tribe Warriors choosing to go in straight to commit to the entirety of Severny. I don't understand it. Maybe they just want more loot, or they were hoping to find a team there. But nonetheless, teams that find themselves on the north, as you said earlier in the game, Severny is one of the places where you would like to be in this game.
Yeah, you're right. The northern side is where it's at. And speaking of athlete game, this would be a very solid time for them to make that rotation into that much more northern side and play that you see that style of play they've been trying for the past two games. This is where I
Mm,
feel it would work. This is where that
mm,
type of rotational gameplay up until the final third, I think this is where it would work for them. But now there's a lot of teams that play this area. It's one thing to have the rotation
mm.
thing locked in. It's now another thing to control the area. You're there early, you're set up, you're ready, you've set up your shop, you've mounted your post. Now you have to control the area. That is what it takes, to have an area for yourself. Can you do it? That is where the skill comes into play. So for a team now like Three Crown Esports, you can see what they're doing in Stauber. They are trying to gather as much intel on all the teams that are making rotations around, and they want to control this entire. But Crowns, if the player moves from here, what would you recommend? Do you stay to make sure that there's nobody again in this area, or do you just hightail it and move into the next zone with the quickness?
I think at that point it becomes a case of, I think that's where we start to see the role of a scout come through very perfectly, because it's one of those cases
True,
where
true,
if Three
true.
Crown right now finding themselves on that northeastern edge, if that zone hard shifts towards the west or hard shifts towards the south, then they can have that one player who could just advance little by little. That, and for a team like Three Crown who already find it comfortable to play a little bit on that edge, it's not going to be too hard for them, because it's going to be like, okay, they're just chasing the next edge of the circle, and they're just doing it progressively, where that scout is going forward, checking around, trying to see, gather information as they go. And I know if we do get like a Western shift on their scouting journey, they will definitely find out the likes of, Vanguard, 1011 Ecstasy, and it's now be down to how well they can clear out teams that are
Yeah, you're right.
obstructions.
Definitely down.
Obstructions.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Definitely, definitely about how you can clear up the obstructions, and exactly what I predicted. Athlete game a little bit too slow to the touch, and they are getting hurt immediately by Three Crown Esports. It is too early to start getting hurt. Hopefully for them, they will find a way around it, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. I think it would be ideal for them to make a move towards the southern side and play from there going forward. But we'll see for ourselves. Dark,
Mm.
on the other hand, struggling really hard game. I don't know why they decided to commit to this area, but it is what it is. Grenade over to the other side there. Great has been spotted. Another grenade surely will knock him all the way down. He's circling back and forth. And Merrick has also launched his own grenade, and that will be a trauma dumping experience for Athlete Game because they are getting absolutely overwhelmed now. Cloud pops another grenade. All the utilities flying from left, right, and center. Great, finally getting knocked away. Cloud looking for that opening, looking for a way in. The grenades are flying continuously. Molotov as well. He's burning, but he doesn't care. It will take the drop, and Ace, unfortunately, will be sent back into the lobby, and that will be good night, Sergey. Will be sent back as well. Three Crown Esports, once again, crowds, they rise to the occasion.
And we spoke about this going from off stream really, where we were talking about attitudes that teams have, and this is a case where you've lost one player but you did get that revive off. The side there of Three Crown Esports have come in to crash you. What is your attitude? Three Crown Esports coming with Nate. We mentioned this the other day, Priest. Are you charging a grenade as a reply to the crash, or are you charging smokes? And it looks like whenever you put something like a smoke when the team has just crashed you, that team that crashed you already has an idea, and they just start to feel like, oh, it's like these guys, they are scared, they are not as good of a team, or they are not a team that can really, really hold us down. So that way they're feeling more comfortable. And I think that's what we saw in that fight with Three Crown Esports, where it's just like Three Crown already realized that, oh, these people are just throwing smokes. These people don't seem ready to fight, threw the Molotov in that little room and said, you know what, we're gonna send it. And you threw smokes and you're holding angle. How do you want to see the person you're trying to cover?
Exactly. I think, do they think that it's the headphones or something? Do you think it's all about the audio? It can get very overwhelming for you, but it is what it is. My bad. Looks like Tribe Warriors have started to rise to the occasion again. 5 eliminations to the good. Kiss did get knocked away, but it didn't stop them regardless. Vanguard getting uprooted. I think they did lose Artist in that exchange, but that would not be the one stopping them. They will try, but take a look at the zone right now. There's a lot of bodies, Crowns. That is a lot of bodies. That is a small zone for the amount of teams inside. The teams at the edge of the circle, they are going to be having a field day. I don't know why Arab T wants to rotate from the north. I don't know why.
Everybody seems to want a piece of Severny loot. Maybe that is the case, but man, teams it is looking very it is looking like we're in for a lot of trouble, and Three Crown Esports would be realizing that as well, as their scouts does get found out and discovered by the side there of Tribe Warriors. But are they looking to commit to this fight? This is a very crazy place to be in, but grenades could fly. Vanguard Esports were also another team that Tribe Warriors were looking to take, and this is looking like one of those games where Tribe Warriors are starting to get eliminations, but will it get into their head like it always does? And then they have a lot of eliminations but go out relatively early.
Yeah, you're right. That's a very astute observation. That is something that happens to Tribe Warriors a lot. You see them pack 10 eliminations, but they're dying like in ninth place or something like that. They get very, very carried away very easily. We've seen that happen in the past, and it's become their trademark. But they're looking very solid. I think they made the right choice there by pulling themselves out of that engagement with the guys from Three Crown Esports. I think they've set their sights now on. I believe there's a solo player for Vanguard there, Monkey, over to that western side. Hopefully she's not discovered. She just hang around there for a little bit. Hopefully, just find a way to keep them inside of the game. But it's going to be a very, very hard one to make happen going forwards. But all eyes will be on Arab T as they also try to make their own rotation from this point.
And things might start to get dicey for the side of Vanguard, but cover fire and support is not something they are lacking. And this is something you mentioned about
Diabolical. Absolutely diabolical, Crowns.
What a zone.
Yo, that's nasty stuff, bro. That's nasty stuff. That is nasty stuff. Do you know the funny thing? There's a team I told here to try to be playing around the Asnaya. I told them to just try and play around. Not necessarily land there, but try to play around there. Just try. Try it first. But nope. Please don't know what you're talking about.
Oh boy. I think many teams foresaw a northern shift. No one saw it coming to the south. And you can see 11 Ecstasy, they are on their way home. But no, people that are on their way, this 14th game, Ragnar, you have to allow them rotate. But it looks like lose one player in the side of
I respect it. I respect it.
But he cannot hold up. He loses one more. Alucard, Dracula backwards, trying to see if he can make a run for it. It does seem to be working, and 14th Gaming will be looking to allow that one happen. It indeed was a respectable hold from the side of Ragnar, but unfortunately, they would lose 3 players towards the side there of 14th Gaming.
Do you know the funny thing? Do you know that Alucard was Dracula backwards until you just mentioned it? I never laughed him. I'm not that laughed him. My bad. Wow. Oh, the Lord has answered my prayers. I will give praises to him and I will lead that crusade. And Crusader with 2 eliminations as he sends some harsh bullets to Harsh Esports, sends them all the way back into the lobby, one after the other. I think that cuts down to 2 players. Dark on that little bit of a shift. Oh, Frostino, yeah, that's a bad idea when you know it's only your head that is available for the trade. That is a very bad idea. Moja Gaming probably gonna capitalize on that one. But the rotations, I mean, Crowns is looking so chaotic. It's so chaotic. Tarodo getting dropped away as well. And the rest of the team there from 14th Gaming also making their rotation. I mean, you can look at all the teams scoring, looking for a way through. And it's not going to be the case for them. 14th Gaming still looking very strong here, and they will be trading off against some teams coming in from that northern side.
Ecstasy is welcoming everyone who tries to make it in from the northeast, and those are the grenades coming in through for Easy 4-7. 14th Gaming lose cash to the grenades, and more would continue to land as the side of 10-11 Ecstasy. They are seeing a whole lot. The zone does move out of the compounds of Yasnaya, favoring the northern side of Yasnaya here. So we're gonna have a lot of open field plays. But Easy 4-7, he's got grenades to play with, and he continues to launch it towards the side here of 14th Gaming.
Yeah, good use of the grenades there, the utilities, but I don't think it's going to amount to anything. 14 Gaming, they're going to hold that line, they're going to hold that position, and I don't think anybody's going to want to go and take it away from them. It's going to be a big risk, and we're seeing it play out time and time again for some of these teams. Moja Gaming finally arriving on the scene. Tinubu is the one that's going to crash into that little box for himself, but Ecstasy looking very solid. They are home. This is their landing spot, so everything will feel natural to them. But there's a lot of utilities flying all around the place right now. Peachy as well, ground floor, but 4 portions have had a horrible day, Grounds.
Yeah, which is very interesting to see 4 portions down to 2 players, you know. Last time I saw 4 portions, they were up as a full squad in Yasnaya, but right now it does look like with that circle shift, they were not quite able to do too much. But I have to commend the side of Tribe Warriors. I mean, they've lost 2 players, but seeing that they were able to make it into the edges of Yasnaya Poliana, I am going to commend them for that play that has gotten them to that position.
Yeah, you're right. They did everything right to get into that position, and I think this is just the end game for them. A trade-off is good. Again, Quilla exposed, getting dropped away by Kiss. I don't know how that happened though, but Nexus is there to the rescue. They are playing as 2. Exactly. I don't know how he was still able to trade him off, but you know, there's spray and then there's spray. And Quilla unfortunately getting sprayed back into the lobby. Can he be put in the vehicle? Yeah, don't see him surviving that one. And that is going to be the end for Quilla. Now is all left to Nexus. He will be spotted. They are all gonna see him making that rotation. The Bugatti is starting to take shots, but he circles in and finds a spot in the zone. You gotta respect Nexus. He is that guy. He will always find a way.
Yep, and he does seem to be isolated at this point. He might be able to play spoiler, but right now all he has to do is wait and chill. But unfortunately, next circle doesn't favor him. 10-11 Ecstasy might have paid PUBG Mobile right now. There is nothing that they will tell me that will make me believe otherwise. Nexus does get overwhelmed by the bullets, and it's only a matter of how long he can survive for, because even Vanguard seems to already know that there is a solo creeping somewhere on that northeast.
You're right, that northeastern side, there's a big chance that could be a big spoiler. Afro Esports are still in it here. They did just get each other, so their spirits are on the rise. It is all left to them now to see if they catapult themselves into a very solid position and if they can turn things. But for now, Tribe Warriors up to 10 eliminations. This is usually around the time get eliminated. So we've seen that time and time again. 4 portions also making that big play for themselves. I think it would be a very big play here, but Amar the drop on Peachy, and that's gonna be good night for him. 4 portions again, crumb the pressure, and this is no points gained, Crowns.
I think Four Portions would have been better off trying to fight the duo from Tribe Warriors than going for the Hail Mary rotation that they've just pulled off. Because you could just tell that all they just said was send it, and then, just sent it straight up into the center of the circle. They did have one player survive, but it's not going to be fun anytime soon, and it's not going to be fun either for the side of 14th gaming as they used to. Master Ugo is down, and the same thing can be said about Kesh. 98k happens to be the last player left, trying to see if he can make it into the circle, but that Nexus third party is biting in the butt as they have to keep moving. 14th, 98k needs to keep moving, but does get discovered by Nexus. Mission accomplished. If there is one person you want to take out, it is the team that is sitting right above you.
Yes, perfectly done by Three Crown Esports. Nexus with the final blow there to rid the lobby of 14th Gaming. He did exactly what he needed to do. He put some work in, and unfortunately, he did succumb to the play zone. But I mean, 4 players up, Ecstasy, everything is working for them. Take a look. As expected, they are playing a split. They have the entire area of Yasnaya locked down. It works for them, and everything is working out for their good. This is easily the best performance that Four Portions have had, though. Solo is in the mix here. He's doing a magnificent job. I think Four Portions is the only team that didn't do a VAR review from today's games. I'm starting to get that feeling that, yeah, because some of the other teams have adapted to them, but doesn't look like they adapted to the other teams' crowns.
Yeah, it's not looking like they've adapted to the lobby as well. I would expect to see more confident plays coming through from them, especially when they have a strong player like Peachy and also Solo on a squad. I'd expect, if that is your duo that is alive, they should still be more confident to push up some teams, try to pull off a sweep. But 10-11 XTC, as you've said, still up as a full squad. They are in their home right now. And I think Amazinho has an idea of where the remainder of the players are. They're just waiting for that circle to move, trying to see who is still in the circle. But I don't think there's anything stopping 10-11 from taking this game home.
Yeah, I think everything has aligned for them. They made the right call. They had that entire area locked down, so they didn't necessarily need to go crazy. They just needed to get the chicken dinner, and that is the objective. Danny Brown on the other side making his own moves, but it looks like Tribe Warriors are going to try their best to hold this down, but it looks like that's not going to be the case because we've got Solo still here. Big chance for spoiler if he can turn things around for his team. A big move for him if he can, but it's looking very unlikely by the second. Every minute that Ecstasy stay alive, it is their game to take through. The Kiss with a drop over to the other side. He tries to go for the finish, but unfortunately, Easy for 7 was there. Touch actually gets the drop on him. Danny Brown with a spray over to the back end, and Solo is charging a grenade, and somehow Ecstasy have 2 players that have been knocked away. This is big trouble, major trouble there. Touch has to be careful. He's going to be sending his own grenade all the way back. And Ecstasy, can they get their numbers back up? It's a big chance, but no, Easy for 7 gets swept away, but that will be good night. And Danny Brown with the final blow. Big opportunity now for Solo. He has given away his position, though, but he will allow Ecstasy to reset into 3 players.
Oh no, Ecstasy do not know he's upstairs. Now they're just hearing the footsteps, but the grenades are flying downstairs now. Now they know there's a player upstairs. And they're going to start to try to go for the push, but no, Solo is going to be able to isolate Amar on the side. Looking to do the same for Danny Brown, and Danny Brown is down. Is he going to be able to pull the third? No. 10-11 Ecstasy, get it all. But that was a very close one from Solo. He did play it very carefully. Almost got themselves that without chicken dinner, but 10-11 Ecstasy would double their lead once more on the top of the leaderboard.
That was absolutely scary hours. But Fire, how did you see that finish?
Man, absolutely outstanding game. For a very split second there, I thought Solo was going to be able to pull it off. Like, it looked like he had the momentum, but 10-11 XTC had enough, just quite enough to seal that game. I mean, it came really close. When those 2 players from 10-11 went down, I just felt like, okay, maybe somehow Solo would be able to turn this game on its head. But once the revive came through, I knew it was over. But my man gave a very quick scare, and now 10-11 XTC has sent a message to the lobby. They are not just playing for points right now, they're playing for the respect. Put some respect on our name as they continue to lead the entire lobby. Great stuff coming from them. And that man, Amazinho, getting himself 2 eliminations, as well as Crusader with 3. Oh, the entire team was absolutely guns blazing. With 10 eliminations to the name, they continue to lead the charge all the way up in that number 1 spot. Equally putting in an amazing performance. Danny Brown with 2 eliminations, as well as 7 with 3 eliminations. Just look at the amount of damage that's coming through from 7 right there with 942. Altogether within that game, it was absolutely outstanding with 57 eliminations, 60 knocks coming through. The grenades were flying, the assists were coming, and the heals as well. All of the teams just trying as much as possible to put up a great performance. 10-11 XTC, of course, going head to head right there with Tribe. Tribe getting 11 knocks and 11 eliminations for themselves, and look at the amount of damage that they had. But 10-11 on the other hand just waited for their moment, getting 10 eliminations in that team, 8 knocks as well, and managed to seal the game true. Altogether, they did grab 20 points, and they just held everybody away in that final second. But our MVP for the game, of course, it is that man Kiss Me from Tribe Warriors, getting 4 eliminations himself, as well as 2 assists. But you've got to look at the amount of damage that man had, 1041. But somehow that was not just enough for their team to go all the way in and grab that chicken dinner. But still an amazing game coming through. But what did you guys think of the MVPs of this particular game? Of course, we talked about Kiss Me, who grabbed that MVP number 1 spot with 4 eliminations and 1,041 damage. But in second place, you can't rule out the work coming through right there from the man 7 from XTC, getting himself 952 damage with 3 eliminations and making sure that counted towards his team grabbing that chicken dinner. Tribe, of course, touched me, getting 4 eliminations, as well as Neo from Afro Esports getting 4 as well. So, what does that all mean for the leaderboard? XTC again continues to show their dominance, and we'll see what that means on the overall leaderboard, with them getting 20 points in that particular game. Tribe coming in second place, getting 16 points with 11 massive eliminations coming through in that game. Now, we saw Nexus playing spoiler to 14 Gaming when he took out the last player from 14 Gaming, and that helped them get all the way into that 3rd spot and grabbing 12 points at the end of the day. So great stuff coming through from them. 4 pushes on the other end did not manage to grab the eliminations that they would have hoped for, but Solo had such a great game in that final circle, knocking two guys down, and it was quite something. It was quite something. All right, guys, so great stuff coming through from all of these teams. It was a massive statement coming through from XTC right there, getting 20 points and pushing all the way up on that leaderboard above 100 points. We'll see what that means after the break. We'll catch you pretty soon. No problem, no problem. All right, guys. So we're back again for All right, guys, so we're back again for another game, and it has been quite a day. Going in from the underdogs, coming in from 14th, and other teams trying to see if they can reduce the gap. And just when it felt like they were going to do that, things turned on their head again, and the guys from XTC showed their dominance. Now, let's look through again the overall top players. Sitting down, of course, in that number one spot is that man Amazino with 37 eliminations to his name. But on the other end, it is my man 98K who is continuing to try to fight. But man, it's still an 18-point gap between them. Seven on the other end has now gotten a bunch of more eliminations, and he's sitting down with 16 to himself. But here comes Quila from 3C, by the way, also sitting down with 16 eliminations, and he's now getting into that top five. All right, so the overall leaderboard has now seen XTC move all the way to above 100 points, now with 116. 3C coming in second place as well, but the gap is so massive. It is now 40 points between the XTC and 3C. Now, of course, we saw 14 Gaming win the first game, almost claimed the second, but that hasn't been enough to reduce that gap as XTC showed their dominance once again. But there's still a lot of play to go through, as we still got a lot of games to come through. Maybe, just maybe, 14 Gaming can do it again and get above that 100 mark. We'll find out in the next game. All right, so the next game of the night is in Miramar. So we'll be finding out pretty soon. As you can see, 14 Gaming taking on that first game with 25 points, as well as Afro Esports, playing spoiler again, of course, and grabbing that point, but doing better for themselves than they have in the tournament so far. But 14 Gaming coming in, XTC coming in and saying, look, this is ours. We want it. And they grabbed 20 points for themselves right there. So moving into the next game, will we see XTC continue to show their dominance, or will guys like 14 Gaming or 3C try to see if they can cross that 100 mark and gone for that number one spot? We'll pass it through to Priest and Kraus now.
Diabolical, bro. It's absolutely diabolical, man. Absolutely diabolical, man.
40
I don't
points
know how I
lead.
feel. I don't know how I feel. But what I like is second place, third place, fourth place are all tied in the 70s region. So I know that, yeah, at least, it's not a smash and grab or anything like that. So at least that gives me a little bit of comfort that it's not, team one, team two, then everybody else,
and the rest of the lobby.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I like the fact that Three Crowns still can't be caught slipping. I like that fact that they can't be caught slipping. I like, XTC have done an amazing job of still keeping their cool, doing everything right, still getting chicken and dinners today. But the fact that Three Crown Esports still can't sleep, they still can't sleep because 14 Gaming and Tribe are still right there. If they are waiting for you to slip up, that is why I'm enjoying this the way I am. And again, we're coming into the 10 games, 11 games, 12 games. The mental fortitude now will start to kick in. Those teams that haven't played a stretch of games this consistently over time, it will now start to play a role. So yeah, let's see.
Yep. Yeah, this is where I'm going to start to ask the question: how are you feeling right now to those teams? If you're Three Crown Esports, your 14th Gaming, your Tribe Warriors. It's only a matter of time. It's a matter of one game. The first drama playing back wasn't very, very favorable, but the center of nice.
Yeah, I don't like the fact that Afro Esports just went under the radar like that. Because let's not forget they did win the first Miramar. They did everything right, and I mentioned them as one of the stronger teams for Miramar. I've seen them play Miramar to the best of their ability, and they usually come out on top. This has always been the thing from time. I think they still have the best Miramar record, in my own opinion. They still have the best overall performance in the history of the NPL in Miramar. But now I still expect more from them. I still expect them to, be consistent with this performance. I really hope they don't allow 14 Gaming and Arab T, because again, Arab T is another team that's been going under the radar. And I think if Arab T can
Mhm.
step up in this game, there's a big chance that they can also be in the running for that top three.
And I think that's one thing that has differentiated the top three from pretty much the rest of the lobby. Because when you look at our leaderboard and you look at the Elim side of things, there's that big disparity of eliminations that you see coming through from these teams. I mean, we're looking at 10-11 XTC with 70 points or 71 points with respect to Elims. Three Crown with 50, same thing about 14th game, they also have 50. Tribe Warriors have 49, which we can basically say they've got 50 eliminations kind of you get what I'm saying. But then when you look at RT Sports that follows closely, we're dropping down to 28. So I think for the side of RT Sports, they would have to step up with that aggression in order to get better or to get top or well get into that top three.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. I think they will need to, pump a little bit of more adrenaline into that top spot, into their gameplay, so that they can switch things around. But for portions, I believe this would be the first set of eliminations they're getting, like more than one elimination. I think this is the best they've done so far today.
Mm.
I don't think they've gotten up to two eliminations in any game so far, so hopefully it ties in. But again, it is something that I've talked about. Not regularly. This would be the time where teams are starting to stretch out. Feel a little bit more comfortable. Just feel themselves out a little bit there, and understand where they are going, what they can do to improve their
Collect.
strategy so
You
far.
go
But he
there.
has to be spotted out there. But RC Sports getting absolutely pummeled by four portions. Four portions starting the game really strongly. Again, this was a team that had a very solid game in Miramar yesterday. So hopefully, and I think this is how they started that game, and they averaged, like, I believe, 12 eliminations. So I'm starting to say, okay, hopefully, four portions can put themselves back into the running again.
Yep, that is definitely what the idea has to be there. Vibe Gaming also in a little bit of their skirmish share. They did take damage from the side of Hershey Sports, but Hershey Sports, I think that's where they got it all wrong. You do have four portion pushing you, but it did seem like they had their attention fixated on the side there of Vibe Gaming. But that being said, we've not spoken about the zone yet. The zone happens to be southern this time. We saw it go up to the north, the first circle, or sorry, the first Miramar. But this time in Miramar, we do seem to have much of a southern circle. Los Leones seems to have just one team now. In Umoja Gaming, we do see Vanguard not even close to the vicinity. We see them also outside. And with Vanguard, I've seen them land on the Minas del Sol Patrona, but today it looks like they went for a little bit of a split loot for us, well, split drop. And it's like, is that amount of loot going to be enough? I start to ask those questions there, Priest.
Yeah, you're right. Because I mean, utilities is key. The loot, what you've packed up is key, especially when the game is just kicking off and looks like four portions are firing on all cylinders right now. Four eliminations, they are tearing everything in their path, and it looks like 419 and PG, the last two. I think it's because of the game they just had. I think that ties into why they are playing the way they are playing right now. Solo, he got a little bit of a taste of the good life in that previous game, getting himself into that top two spot, getting the first drop onto the other side. Kenny now trying to make it rain on the ops, but Skinny is there to skin him alive, and that's going to be a wrap. Again, it's so interesting to see that this is what I was expecting. Four portions just running amok, and I love it. Now, this is a team that you don't want them to run into you
Eh?
right now. You just don't want them to run it. Now, don't
Yeah,
worry. Don't worry. Nothing was going to happen there. Nothing was going to happen there to that
yeah,
guy.
exactly.
Trust.
And this is where I start to speak to teams like Four Portions, because you can see how well they're playing as a unit, as a full squad. I would expect to see them play like they're you would expect to see them show should I say more resilience, trying to keep the entire squad alive every time, which is what I was saying again in that map of Erangel. Like, you guys as a unit, you do seem to be able to do better. So if you have at least 2 players, it means you can still confidently go for a push. We didn't see that come through in the map of Erangel, but now in Myanmar, where we're seeing them hold up as a full squad, we're seeing how well they're able to take teams. I mean, 6 eliminations already. That is brilliant.
Yeah, it's a beautiful to kick the game off. I can't even lie, they're doing it right now. Hopefully, new player picked up there, but Ragnar. Oh, things could from bad to worse
Yep.
for them. It is of all people to pull up for you is 14th gaming dog. Somebody should clip this with that dog and that sound where the dog just closes his eyes and looks into the air. Yeah, you buddy. Because, man, of all people to slam
Ah,
you, it's 14th gaming dog. Come on. Like, I imagine how they must have felt, Noruka and the rest of his team, how they must be feeling now, that it's 14th gaming that's, clapping them into oblivion. It's unfortunate that that's the case for them, but it's just what it is. But I gotta respect it still. They're still performing better than Athlete Game. Athlete Game are still yet to secure double-digit points as it stands. But hopefully this could be the game where they do it.
and we've seen Athlete Gaming, really, really focus so much on trying to get into the circle, trying to play it slowly. I do understand that you might want to feel a little bit underwhelmed, I guess. I don't know if that's the word, but start feeling a little bit scared when you go up against other teams in the lobby, like the ones that we have here, like the Afro Gate, or well, pretty much the Three Crowns, the Ecstasies, the 14s, the Tribe Warriors. But then I think these are situations where you really need to go all out. Rather than try to avoid the fights, why not try to take the fight? That is one thing that I would advise the side of Athlete Gaming. But at the same time, I feel scared giving that advice, because the last thing we gave that advice to on Solid Army, when they eventually tried to fight, we kind of saw how that one ended.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. But it's still one thing to want to take an engagement, and it's another thing to actually have a plan of attack whenever an engagement is the objective. Because what happened to Unsolid Army in the previous game was just they just got caught out. They were excited. Oh, we're third partying now. We're about to third party. Make sure maybe Jesse just didn't tell them to like cock their guns or something, because they just got caught out. They had no idea what the objective was there. They just wanted to shoot anybody they first saw, and that is just what gets some teams a little bit too excited. We're third partying, and they make it feel like it's their first time third partying. Third partying is not just pulling up to a fight and you just start guns blazing. There's a strategy. You have to make sure you're in a good position, and you cannot be at risk. The third point of it is to utilize the element of surprise. That is what a third party is. You surprise one of the teams. If you can surprise both of the teams, that's a bonus. But you surprise at
Even
least
better.
one of the teams and capitalize on them.
Yep, definitely that is the plan. And speaking of plans, I'm looking at the map feed here where it's looking like a situation where we might be getting on Solid Army heading back to their I don't want to say their old ways, because they're like, what, these crowns and priests, you saying take fight, take fight, take fight, take fight. We're not doing that anymore. And if you're looking at the map here, you can barely see them. That is because they're still currently in Cruise the Valley, up in that blue zone. And this is something that we saw come through from Unsolid Army a whole lot, especially in the survival stage, where we see them, play it very passively, drink zone 1, drink zone 2, and eventually start to make it into the circle. But we did point it out off stream, that kind of gameplay leaves you blindsided, because by the time you want to make your next rotation, you pretty much don't have that much information as to what is going on in the game.
Exactly. And playing without information is a big risk. But at least you have like 405 5 6s, so I guess that's a bonus or something. I guess that's a bonus or something. So if you have like 500 500 I mean, respect.
You're supposed to do
Respect,
something.
because that's what because that's because that's what
It's gonna be
some
a case
people
of
like, that's their objective in the
anybody that
game.
takes you out.
But still, Afro Esports was starting to see they're playing exactly how they did in the first Miramar game. We're starting to see how that plays out for them. But Tribe
Ooh.
and 14th Gaming, this is Ecstasy's paradise right now. Tribe and 14 Gaming locking horns. This is exactly what Ecstasy is looking for. This is what they want. It is going to be the receiving end of that one, but it's a big, big move, a trade-off. And unfortunately, Tribe Warriors on the up and up right now. Mount Ugo is circling all the way around, and he fall back to his teammates and get them all the way back up. But it's not looking like that's going to be the case. It's knocked away. Tribe Warriors are going to capitalize on this one and send them all back into the lobby.
He has to run. There is no other option for the side of Master Ugwe. He had to do them like Shifu. He told them, you must continue this journey on your own. 3 Crown, trying to hold up on the edge, but 14th Gaming, first of all, I enjoy and I encourage the attitude from them, because the instance Ugo is seeing that 3 people are down is like, yeah, waste no time, getting in the vehicle and heading out of dodge, you know, go jack back.
Again, a perfect that'd be a perfect area to looks like Ugo is gonna be swept away again, and Afro Esports will capitalize on that. Go out. Unfortunate scenario for
I was
them.
going to
Unfortunate
say.
scenario for them.
I was going to say.
Oh, it's.
I was going to say I saw.
It's
because I saw Ugo driving towards the center. I was about to say you're a solo. You should probably be driving towards the edge. You know, pull off. Oh, that is so sad for the side of 14th Gaming. Can't lie. You know, having to lose out this early. Even at 3 Crown Esports is still alive. Tribe Warriors are still alive.
Neon Rising. Trouble in paradise right next. Been knocked. Take a look at more Prestige off on the beautiful off angle, but behind your off angle, there's another off angle. Cloud is behind there as well, so Morstees has to be very careful. He's not out of danger just yet, but he might be getting dropped off. Quilla will take bullets straight to the skull. Neon Rising will turn things around again. One of the stronger teams in Miramar. 3 Crowns used to just one, and it's going to be Cloud left. Neon Rising taking the game to 3 Crown Esports. Crowns, again, it's so chaotic.
It is. There is a 40-point lead. Neon Rising, don't do this. Tribe Warriors, I can understand. They need to fight for that second switch, but 3 Crown Esports, now they are forced to be in the same situation that 14th Gaming were in. 14th Gaming right now, they are going to be the happiest people on earth. And if you think even 14th Gaming are going to be the happiest, even Tribe Warriors would be more happy as well. Because these are 2 teams that are right above them, crumbling in the map of Miramar, and there's still one more game to go.
Yeah, and what makes it more diabolical is the fact that 4 portions already have 7 eliminations. It could only get worse for a team like 3 Crown and 14th Gaming right now. There's so many ways this could go out. Take a look at this. 4 portions getting absolutely surrounded by Afro Esports. This can go one of 2 ways. Afro Esports, they want all the smoke, but 4 portions as well are ready to defend this place like their life depends on it, because I know they know that this is a hillside position. This is a position that's going to pay them off in the long run. And now, can Afro Esports breach, or do they fall all the way back? This is a very, very big deciding moment for either of these teams, because this can catapult Afro Esports into that running for top 5. But now, can 4 portions do something about it? Will they stand in their way, or will they make something, happen out of that despite position?
And this is where we start to talk about the attitude. Once again, the use of grenades, even if it doesn't hit, it puts some sort of fear in the minds of your opponents, And I've been expecting to see a grenade come through from Afro Esports, but I've not seen anything. Neo has got 4, and no grenades has been sent towards Skinny's position. Skinny is definitely exposed. 4 portions know there is someone in that building, but they're not doing anything with respect to nades. And it's like, you need to scare your opponent a little bit. That way you toss them off balance. And finally, we're starting to see those grenades come through. Afro Esports going to finally take the initiative.
Yeah, but Skinny's going to be dropped away there. He loses his ones, and that is the only beginning. Take a look at that. The landlord has occupied the top floor. SWAT has opened the gates for 4 portions now. It is their time. 4 portions, as for Afro Esports, and PG's right behind him, though. I don't see how PG doesn't get a drop, and he does get that drop immediately as well. A trade-off is good, and Afro Esports under siege and under fire right now. There's a trade, a big trade, has changed the dynamic of the entire game. If if Afro Esports do not find a way to get those numbers up, it's going to be very diabolical for them.
They want
And
to
here comes
isolate.
Dago trying to circle back. Take a look at that. They're trying to isolate Peachy all by his lonesome onto that right-hand side. But here comes Solo. He's in a better spot, and that
Nice.
will be the angle. And Arab T have pulled up to the scene, and Four
Oh!
Portions will thank their gods that Arab T have pulled up and snatched it away from Afro Esports.
Afro Esports would wonder what they did wrong. Swart is still down and he has eyesight on the side here of Four Portions. Now they need to get that revival, but Peachy's got ideas. Spamming a grenade through, but unfortunately not quite able to thread it too perfectly. 419 has been spotted. RMT Esports are starting to lose players one after the other as Afro Esports still do not want to agree. That is a beautiful grenade and Neo is going to regret trying to go for the revive. Dax, the last player left, and Peachy is on smoke. 6 eliminations already. Afro Esports, or sorry, make that 4 portions up to 8, and they still have 3 players alive.
Yeah, big moves from Four Portions right now, and that is exactly what happens when you start your game firing on all cylinders. They have turned up the heat and they can feel the pressure again, and trouble in paradise right now as Neo gets burned away by Solo. 9 eliminations for Four Portions, and they know for a fact RFT is just hanging around behind them there, but Dax's vehicle is on its last leg. He's busted 2 tires. Can he advance further? Can he escape the danger? But I think he might be able to, but it's unfortunate. I mean, they did come out of this with 3 eliminations, so it's not the worst thing in the world, but that is just what it is. You have to make sure that your area is secure, and you just can't surround a compound like that. They were just spread too thin, and the guys from RFT just capitalized on that. But take a look at the northern side. Unsullied Army avoiding all the eliminations, avoiding all the engagements, only to pull up on who? Ecstasy. Do you love the way you love it? You feel in your body.
It's like, and this is what we spoke about, not having information as to what is going on in the game. And the first elimination that you get, or sorry, the first engagement that you get, you're already going out. That is not. It definitely can't be fun playing this way. I don't think they're having fun on this one. But speaking about having fun, Cloud in what seems to be a 1v4 against the side of Neon Rising cannot do too much. He did get that one knock, but it looks like Neon Rising are very proactive on that revive. Now they see that player jump downstairs. Cloud, we do know him to be one of those players who have been poached by many as MVP material. Would this be the time to show that he's got the clutch in him?
Yeah, I mean, this would be the perfect time for Cloud to turn things around. I would have liked to see his photo up here, though, because it's a big move. Wow. That could be the worst thing that could happen right now if Cloud actually... I think he knows that is exactly what just happened. I think he's aware, but that could be a big game changer for them. Monax had to be very careful with that one. Molotov to follow through as well, tries to burn down the door, and Dark Knights will be sent back into the lobby. Unfortunate scenes for them. They have been really, really struggling. And Cloud gets the burn through an explosion as more Steez will be getting knocked away, but unfortunately I don't think he can capitalize here. There's just too much at stake. There's just too much risk, and I think they're going to have to deal with him really very, very quickly. Neon Rising have the numbers advantage. They have the angles. They have everything working in their favor. They just need to be very careful with the way they're tossing those grenades, because I think Morris Steez has been knocked down like 2 times now. Getting knocked down a 3rd time will not be ideal for him, but hopefully we will see Cloud do something special right now.
Drop and roll, Cloud as he burns, but more grenades coming in through. They're starting to reduce the amount of rooms that he can go into here, Cloud, and he has to keep playing around with the headphones of the side of 3 Crown Esports, or sorry, of Neon Rising. Neon Rising have got 40 seconds, or make that 22 seconds now to push up this fight. Grenades coming up the top of the stairs. The door is out of commission. DBS in the hands of Cloud. 4 players rushing into his building. Looks for 1, make that 2. Looks for 3, and he does find 3. DBS is an absolute monstrosity of a weapon. Cloud is on fire. He's looking for the 4th. That player goes into the building. He's going to be more checks as he's trying to pull up the grenade, trying to force it, but the reload does come through. Cloud down to a slither of HP. The rest of the players there from Neon Rising, not quite making things easy. Goes for his test, looking for the pick, but cannot find it. Falls for the plate once more, trying to see if he can find it, but heads into the building. Pulls up the heel strats. Chicks definitely hears this. Pulling up that pin again, trying to see if he can play the mind game, and now he comes for the push, but the HP bar is full. 8 bullets, locked in and loaded. Cloud goes downstairs, looking for more. 3rd party does a little bit more damage, but he needs to get the thirst. The revive is coming upstairs, and Chicks and Aura Might be able to get themselves back up. A grenade is sent upstairs. It's going to distract them. It is a smoke. They did not know. It pushes into the building. Looks for one. Gets the pump. But it's not there. Cloud holding down the fort as Chicks tries to see if he can go for the revive again. But Cloud, he's trying to make sure that this is not going to happen. Pushes into the wrong building. You see him hearing them moving. Knows it's not happened just yet as Chicks now has to heal up. DBS goes in through, but no damage has been found. Priest, what do you think about this fight?
Oh my goodness, Cloud on Cloud 9 right now. 3 Crown Esports. This could be a big change in the dynamic right now. He cannot allow for that reset. He has continuously mounted the pressure. Tries to pop the grenade again, but the DBS will close out the game. Cloud on Cloud 9. 3 Crown Esports. Unstoppable.
He is one of the players who we say was a prospective MVP. And he has shown everybody that they were not wrong to think that. A 1v4, the DBS in the hands of a master would forever continue to be that monstrosity of a weapon. 3 crowns remain alive, but Athlete Gaming would see them to the end of their campaign. They would go out in 9th position, but with nothing less than 6 eliminations. What a play from Cloud.
Oh, Cloud 9 is right. What a performance from Cloud. He did everything right. He did everything perfectly. He did not allow for that reset. He did not allow for that pickup. He kept on Neon Rising. Again, this is something we talk about when you're pushing a solo player. You cannot allow them to put their crosshairs in one spot that can be diabolical for you in tight spaces. It was a very bad call for Neon Rising. They should have just kept it to utilities and throwables like they were doing the first time. It would have eventually worked. There was no need for sacrifice, even if it was one player, to that potential. But it looks like Artists will be falling to Sook, and it looks like Vanguard Esports as well will be taking major hits, as 4 portions are also up to 10 eliminations now, Crowns.
Yep, and this is something that we actually did see from Neon Rising, and I think you could already see, once again, we speak about the attitude that you're bringing into the game. You know, you're going to go for a push on a solo, but beforehand, you've needed yourself like 2 times. You know, at that point, you're not really, your head is not fully in the game. And then you're looking at Cloud, who is basically on survival mode. Like, he's like, whatever is happening, I'm going to try to get this wipe. He wasn't even focused on trying to get the thirst, which is something I would have said, you know what, go for your thirst, bro. But he did get 1 thirst in that. But man, what a clutch coming through from him. 10-11 Ecstasy is still alive. And right now, it looks like 40 points might just even be the minimum with respect to how much of a lead, because everybody else that seems to follow them has been out. Tribe Warriors remain the only person alive, and they have just the 1 solo to hold down the fort for them.
I mean, take a look at that play zone. You can see it 4 portions with the right idea, but it's all about the execution. Athlete Game going out to the zone. Yep, again, that's zone 5, zone 6 area. They've been crashing out, so we've been seeing that happening time and time again. It's an unfortunate scenario for them, but 4 portions, can they hold on? Can they hold out against the likes of Ecstasy? No, they cannot.
That's a good nade.
Easy for 7 will get the first drop. Amar peeks out again, almost getting dropped off, but Solo is no match, as Amar will buy the dust and send him back into the lobby. 419, the last one left for 4 portions, and they can set the sidelines on him as Danny Brown makes an advance. Peeks into the corner, can't seem to get the drop on, and unfortunately, that will be the end. Ecstasy once again, 9 eliminations and not a single body lost.
You see 9 eliminations. I see 49 points lead there coming through from the side of 10-11 Ecstasy. 3 teams left, and they happen to be the only one of those 3 teams with a complete squad. Unsolid Army surviving with Layla still outside the circle. RFT Esports, the other team that is still alive in this one, with a 3-man. And it's a question of who actually takes this one home. 10-11 already seem to be on fire. Easy 4-7 looking to get things started as Artichoke has been spotted, but 7 is going to be the one to fall as Rodo is able to find and pepper him down. Artichoke forced to heal, and 10-11 Ecstasy might need to take this relatively slowly than they would have anticipated.
Yeah, big game for RFT here, but it looks like they will be crumbling under the pressure once more. Artichoke swallows a grenade straight to the chest from Amar, and that will be another one to close it down. Atarodo, can he make something happen? Egugu as well, making a little bit of a push forward, and Atarodo again has traded off. Danny Brown gets knocked away, and that could be a big opening for RFT, but can they hold on? The pressure is mounting. Amar continues to send the grenades over to the top side. side. But it doesn't look like that could yield much of anything because Ecstasy do have the high ground
Mm-hmm.
position. Artichoke finally finds himself back into the lobby 10. And look for Ecstasy now.
Pick up.
Alien picks up again, almost getting dropped away. Beautiful, beautiful suppressive fire coming through, but easy for 7, getting dropped again by Atarudo. Atarudo has been on fire, but unfortunately for him, he will be suffering the
Mm-hmm.
circumstances of Unsullied Army. Came into play, major spoiler, but that will be the end of the road. Ecstasy once again, chicken in winner.
Well, you definitely have to switch it whenever you start to see teams like 10-11 pull up a madness like this. This is going to be their what? Second chicken dinner today? Am I doing my math right? They have played all their cards correctly and they are showing that we are not the team to fall off on day 2. At Fire, break down this game further for us.
I mean, absolutely outstanding game once again coming through from the voice of XTC. Definitely not releasing their chokehold on the entire lobby. Just look at that man, Amazinho, increasing his tally once again to 40 eliminations. But it's not just him that tells the entire story. Crusader, Danny Brown, as well as 7 also contributing their very fair share with 3 and 1 elimination respectfully. Amazing stuff coming through. I mean, at some point I thought that 3 crowns was going to somehow do it, but the boys from Neon just played a bit of spoiler there. But regardless, it was still an amazing game coming through with 52 eliminations in that one, and we saw 3 graded eliminations as well as 23 assists end to end and 1 vehicle elimination. It was quite a game with a lot of events, which we'll talk about in a second. But before we go into that, it is the boys from XTC once again getting themselves 12 eliminations and a total of 22 points. I mean, we saw it at the end of that fight. The boys from Arab T were trying as much as possible to see if they can somehow play spoiler, but the firepower coming through from them was just way too much. 4P on the other hand, had quite a game. Peachy trying as much as possible to see if he can continue to rack up those points for his team, as well as Skinny and the rest. But the firepower around there was just way too much. But our MVP of the night, of course, is that man who I just spoke about now, Peachy, getting 8 eliminations. Will that take him into that top 5 of the MVPs? We'll see pretty soon. But he also got himself 7 knocks as well as 1 assist. But just look at the amount of damage that he got. He got 1,123 damage, and he was also part of healing his teammates, getting them back on, and trying as much as possible to see if he can grab them all the way into that final circle. Great stuff coming through from all of these teams, but at the end of the day, the boys from XTC were just too much, and you see that in the top players of the game. Peachy, although he got 8 eliminations and he was the MVP, you can see that Amazinho, Crusader, Danny Brown were all lighting it up throughout the game, but you cannot rule out that squad wipe coming through from my man Cloud. With that DBS, he just kept going at them over and over again, and it wasn't like they were pushing him one by one. They pushed him together, but he was just at the right angle, the right movement, the right strength, just to make sure he got those knocks to come through. Now, I felt like at some point they could have pushed him. They could have gone for him when he was just down to 1 HP. But when you send the fear of God into people's hearts the way he did, you decide to be a little bit careful, and that did not pay off for them at the end of the day. But the match rankings coming through right there, as you can see, with the boys from XTC continuing to push and push and push, even though they're sitting down in that number 1 spot. They're not relenting. They keep holding and pressing their neck, pressing the neck of 4 portions, pressing the neck of 14 Gaming, as well as the boys from 3 Crowns, and trying to keep them at bay. But the question now is there a shake up on the entire leaderboard? With all of the points that we've seen, will guys like the 4 Portions, Tribe Gaming take on that number 1 spot? We'll find out pretty soon. But before we go into that, the MVPs of the night, just take a look at that. I mean, Peachy now comes into the conversation as well, because he got a whole bunch of eliminations today. in this particular game, especially with 8 of those. But my man Amazinho continues to press their neck. He's got a KD of 4.6, but my goodness, look at those eliminations. He is sitting down with 42, more than double of what anyone else has. But in second place, of course, Peachy comes into the conversation with 18 eliminations. My goodness, just take a moment
Jesus
to
Christ.
let that overall standing sink in. Just take a moment to let that sink in, guys. In case your mathematics is bad, okay? I'm not that great at math. All right, but if my math serves me right, that is 56 points, guys. 56. Some teams in the lobby don't have 56 points, and they are leading with 56, guys. It is well, oh, it is well. Anyways, let's just go into number 2 and 3. Tribe Gaming has done, quite well for themselves too as well. They've taken over 14th place. Now, I think obviously 14 bots with it. I think that 3 crowns could have done, a lot better. Now, it's great to see clutches, but where was the clutch when they needed it, eh? Anyways, before your teammates died. Anyways, 3C and Tribe Gaming. Great stuff. Great, amazing, gameplay from them. Will we see the same thing again when we come back? We'll know pretty soon. All right, for now, we'll take a break. We'll catch you for the final game. All right, guys. So I normally would love an underdog story, okay? And I would love to see three crowns as well as 14 Gaming come back, but Ecstasy has just showed their dominance. But let's see how the final game goes, if we will still somehow see an upset. All right, take it, Chris.
Alrighty, we are here, and this time I am not muted. I am locked in, just as I assume the remainder of the teams are locked in going into this final game of Erangel. I mean, Priest. We were just talking about that 1v4 that we got to experience, man. How are you feeling going into this Erangel game?
Man, that was crazy. That was absolutely crazy. You know, again, we talk about how these players do these 1v4s. It usually always falls into like the same structure, you know, when the clutches happen, you know, individual after the other, then the crosshairs joining up there in the air, and they just keep, you know, nodding in the shotgun shells and all of that. But regardless, Cloud was absolutely amazing. He didn't let the pressure get to him at all. He was able to keep Neon Rising at bay. It was a very good game for him. Unfortunately, you know, the rest of his team was eliminated by then. It was a big opportunity to, you know, give themselves a gap with the rest of the team. But the same 82.78 is still, they're still very much in the same lineup, and I gotta respect Four Portions because now they are in the conversation.
Yep, and that's actually something I was gonna pick up. Like, there is already, I think this is probably the last time we'll speak about this, but we'll just let you guys know in case you didn't do the math already. 56 points difference from first position to second position. At this point, it's just like we said it at the beginning. 10-11 is not going to have a bad game. You know, like, it's almost like, okay, me hoping for Ecstasy to have one bad game is not going to happen. You know, so right now I'm just here trying to see what the attitude is. Just like you mentioned, we're seeing now that 82, 82, 70. We're starting to see that battle for second place look to get started. So I would see which team really wants it the most.
Yeah, I want to see who wants it more. At this point, again, like, and this is just day two. Tomorrow is still there, and I heard Bego is going to be in the game tomorrow. You know, he's been
Ah,
resting. You know, they're gonna add Bego to the cut tomorrow. I can't even begin to imagine what it's going to look like for this lobby. But again, we will be there. We will not be there. We will be there now. We will be there regardless.
mhm.
But as it stands right now, we still have a very interesting playing path, cuts all the way from Nota Power down to Severny, and shooting range cuts right down the middle there. I don't know teams in that southern side, and I still see some people hot dropping crowns.
Wow. I start to wonder what is going on. I'm going to pardon the Severny thingy. No, I'm not going to pardon the Severny thing because Athlete Gaming, unless I'm mistaken, in the first Erangel game, they landed around Storbar now. You anyway, at least it's
Like
better.
it's
Even Novo, there's a hot drop. As how Pochinki is
you can't even
empty.
keep track. It's so hard to keep track. You know, there's nobody in Pochinki, dog. Like, it's so hard to keep track. You know, Umoja Gaming is in Novo. Like, what are they doing here? How do you get to Novo? I don't even know. I've never seen Umoja Gaming in Novo before. I have never seen it from the playoffs to the league stages to the super weekends. I have never seen Umoja Gaming in Novo before. Or maybe I wasn't
You know,
paying
we
attention. Maybe I
questioned
wasn't paying
Umoja.
attention. Yeah, we
We
weren't paying
questioned Umoja
attention.
yesterday,
Maybe.
asking them, did they do the research? Did they know, or well, did they know what they were doing with respect to drop locations? And at this point, if we answer the question for them, it starts to look as if no, we're just jumping into conclusion. Casters don't really know what's going on in the game and all of that. But it's just, for what it's worth, Pochinki is empty. You can easily find a vehicle, head over. I mean, we can see our T Sports are currently chilling in Jojopo. Jojopo, we do know one team, in fact, two teams can hold the north without fighting, and one team can go to the south or southern Jojopo. There's like different places across the map that you could hold, in a 16 team lobby. But right now, everyone just seeming to, well, these couple teams that are on the hot drop, it's just It's annoying to see when you start to reason that today is day 2 of the finals.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, it's just day two, and there's still a whole lot of diabolical activity going on here. I would think that at least some form of research would have kept these players from performing in this, but it is what it is. Ragnar traded off there. I think we've lost one to the guys from Dark Knights. It's a very hard, very hard not to crack here because I think we saw Athlete game we saw what they did in the first game. Now they're in Severny again. Um, I really want to hold this area, but Teams Gaming, that's going to be a stretch. It is going to be a very long stretch for them. But again, I would like to see what they do here. But I don't see them doing much. If they can get a vehicle reposition, that would be very ideal for them. But as it stands, I don't really see the point. Not enough utilities to go around. Severny is a one-team town.
Yeah.
It is for one team.
Trade initiated here in this fight between Tribe Warriors and Afro Esports. Afro Esports still driving around for reasons best known to Neo, but SWAT's trying to see if he can hold that cover fire, try to prevent that instant slam coming through from the side of Tribe Warriors. Tribe Warriors have got different angles, and I'm very surprised to see that last player touch, I believe, that is still going to be perfect. Has not chosen to fully apply pressure on this engagement there with Afro Esports. But nonetheless, it is Vibe Gaming coming in through for a little bit of third-party action with Kenny, just standing on the top of the school hill, trying to see if he can find something, but he's being rushed with bullets as well from the side of Tribe Warriors down to the 1 HP. Vibe Gaming look very confused at the moment here, Priest.
Yeah, confused for my liking. I think this is not something they planned. I don't think this is something they expected to do. Like I said, those teams that are not used to playing 5 matches, 6 matches, is starting to show. It's starting to, trickle into their gameplay style. But Tribe Warriors and Afro Esports, this is not something I expected to see this early. But they will be trading out. Looks like Neon Rising is also getting a piece of the action as well.
Yep. Again, what happens in that school that we always see. Tribe Warriors finally, committed engagements with the side there of Afro Esports. Afro Esports are still up as a full score, now by 1 now. But the side of Tribe Warriors need to get 1 week back up and complete on this. And we do know, just like before in that last game, when you start to push buildings like this, it gets very, very tricky. And, it's going to be how well the side of Afro Esports can defend in a building.
Yeah, it really boils down to how defensive they can get. Peachy is taking some nasty damage, but I think he has been able to set himself into a better position there to get his HP levels back up before they can advance going forwards. But it looks like they have set their sights on Dark, and Dark, I don't see them surviving this though. It's going to take a lot for them to keep this down. A grenade getting charged up by Toxic. I don't think he's able to circle back on this one. That's an unfortunate turn of events there. Lala with the first drop, Peachy with the next one, and that is the unfortunate for them. Rizzo trying to get an angle there. He does get a sideline, but can he make the job easier? Solo has been spotted, already getting dropped away. He hasn't given away his position, but he does get dropped away. Beautiful spray from Rizzo, and Dark could utilize this, but again, it is going to be very difficult for Rizzo to do something here. And Laugh Online already circling back, and he is going to pop him through the S12K, but it's not going to be the case. La has been here before. He knows the job. He knows what to do. Getting peeked off into the left-hand side. Dark Humor will spray again. Tries to circle back again. Tries to close this out. Peachy with a jump shot. Goes for the front. Another opportunity at there. BS is where his life will end. And 4 portions starts the game on all 4 cylinders again.
And this is a good way for 4 portions to start. We saw how they could play, especially when they get eliminations up at the beginning of the game. That was the same pattern they went on in that Miramar game. They're currently seated in 5th position, trying to give 14th Gaming a little bit of a run for their money, but they would need a whole lot of points, heading into this one. 14th Gaming still in Severny there with the side of Athlete Gaming. It doesn't look like both teams are ready to Oh, maybe they are actually. 14 Gaming did lose one to the side of Athlete Gaming already. But nonetheless, it's still one of those situations where 14 Gaming really need to make a decision at the moment. Do you want to get out of dodge, or do you want to completely engage this team? I mean, they already know what team is there with them. I mean, if they're looking at the leaderboard, they can say this is the team that is currently in 16th place. We should be able to hold on to them, but we do know how PUBG Mobile works.
Yeah, we definitely know it works, right? Because I'm still impressed that Afro Esports have still been able to, hold the line there against the guys from Tribe. I mean, it's really is. It takes a lot from you. It takes a whole lot from you when you decide for yourself that that is the way you want to go. And it looks like Neon Rising won a piece of the action as well. I think this is them deciding to take the last game into
Mm.
their own hands. They've not necessarily had the best day, and it's starting to show. But they have a plan here, and it looks like they might be executing it perfectly. This is the second time they will get the drop on Afro Esports. Would be a big opportunity for them to sweep up. They have numbers advantage, and Afro Esports sent to break up that defense that Afro Esports are sitting on right now, because they are playing as three. Neon Rising could capitalize on this. While all of that is going on, Tribe Warriors will find to escape the danger.
Yeah, not gonna lie, fam, Tribe Warriors, after all of this, seeing that we got Neon Rising here in the vicinity, I'm getting into a vehicle and I'm heading out of there. You know, you really want to put up a little bit of survival points. There's still 14 teams are alive in this one. Neon Rising, trying to see if they can break that Afro Esports defense. But right now, Afro Esports, they're just sitting upstairs. Neon Rising, do you just know from the way they're pushing, they have some sort of PTSD, bro? Because it's one of those situations where they're stalking. Do we push as a full team? That's what they did in Miramar. Didn't work out well for them, but now they're doing it again. Now Speeds drops first, and Max follows suit. Aura coming through from the bottom of the stairs, but cannot quite find anything to do. Chicks with the DBS trying to see if he can hold on the forts, but now Neon Rising need to grab one revive as Nax does get thirsted.
Unfortunate scenario. Again, if you're crashing the party, then crash the party. They started to second guess, and it's starting to show off. More Steve still knocked away. More Aura is just getting turned. Doesn't seem to find its way through there. If he can get picked up, maybe this will put the ball back into the hands of the guys from Neon Rising. But as it stands, Afro Esports still have them on the ropes. This could change any moment from now. Again, I was expecting them out with the push. Again, I don't even know why they like to push in these types of settings. I personally don't even like, apartment engagements. People hanging around on the stairs. You don't know what floor they're on. All those kind of antics is not for me though. I want to fight outside. I want to find the open. I want to find behind vehicles. I want to use the rocks, use the terrain. But climbing up the stairs with the DBS, somebody waiting for you on the DBS, the S12K. You're at a disadvantage already, regardless of the number of numbers. You have an Aura takes a hit. Neon Rising have capitalized on this one, but it looked like Afro Esports had something in the chamber for them. And like Crown said, it's PTSD. We are just seeing it again from 4 players. They are down to 1, and now more Aura Diaz tries to back into the corner, and he tries to wrap this up, and he does get the clutch. But now Tribe Warriors, they know exactly what they need to do, and they're looking for a way through. First throw into the corner again. Neon Aura trying to back into the corner as well. Sways into the right hand side. S4K tries to circle back again. First shot. This is the first, and unfortunately, it will be clutch time. Tribe Warriors will be the team that survives every single time.
And I love the play coming through from Tribe Warriors. And you could just see middle of the fights there. I was asking where is Tribe Warriors, because now is the time to push. And it just goes to show that proactivity coming through from the team. It's something that we've mentioned a lot of times off stream. Whenever you have a couple players that have already been eliminated on your squad, it kind of gives you a little bit more awareness, because there's other people that can assist you with thinking, reading those elimination field, trying to see how many people is alive. And I think that is what Tribe Warriors have just done there. But nonetheless, it was a solid hold coming through from Afro Esports. And I think this idea of Neon Rising really needs to start to put in their consideration that whenever you're trying to push into a building like that, like the school building, it's something we did a lot in classics. You have to smoke off one view from the other. If you're going to smoke up the stairs, then it means you're pushing into one of the rooms, or you smoke up the stairs, smoke off the other room, so there isn't that off angle, and then you can, make your push as an entire squad into that chaos, into the mess upstairs there. But it looks like they didn't have that one in mind there, this idea of Neon Rising.
Yeah, I think they didn't have a plan. I think it still fell into that dynamic of, oh, we just found ourselves here because I really, I really thought, after what just happened to them in Miramar, they would, they wouldn't throw caution to the wind like that because they just pulled up. They really just pulled up and did whatever they liked. Again, the ISF regional qualifiers, I promise you, it is much harder. It is much more harder than this. It is much more rigorous than this one. And Neon Rising have not impressed me in this final. They have absolutely not impressed me. I was expecting a much better performance from them, owing to the fact that we saw something different during the league stages, during the Super Weekend. I saw so much different plays, but it looks like Unsullied Army will not be biting the hand that feeds them this time around, as they will be getting the drop on the guys from Arab T. But it looks like 14th Gaming as well won a piece of the action. Zabit hopefully he doesn't get caught up by 14th Gaming there, but they are in the entire area. I think he can get the drop on Arab T as well. But on Solid Army, I mean, I can't fault them. They did good. They got two eliminations, I guess. Yay.
I mean, they did lose their three players to the side there of RT Esports in what seems to be a very chaotic push. I would like to see Unsolid Army actually play as a team because at this point I start to ask questions and it's going to look like I'm taking a jab at them. But it's just a case of, I'm looking at that fight, everyone is just driving around separately, and it's like I fail to believe you're getting caught on rotation because if you're rotating, I'd expect you to still rotate as a squad as compared to getting picked apart one after the other. But anyway, Zabit, on the other hand, gonna try to see if he can play that survival card for them. 14th gaming gonna come through to see if they can do a little bit of third party. I mean, they, ooh, you can do that. Anyway,
Yeah.
they did get. How do you drift in PUBG Mobile, Priest? How do you do it?
Yeah. It's a new feed. It came like I think 2 updates ago or something. Yeah, it was
All
just
right.
it's fun actually, but doesn't stop you from getting shot. And again, on Solid Army, I don't know why we have someone getting run over in phase 3 of the circle. I don't know how that is happening though. I'm curious how Ebebe is getting knocked away by vehicle in this at this stage of the circle. I don't know how that happens. I don't know what it takes for something like that to happen, but it is what it is. 14th Gaming and Athlete Game, they have been in this northern side for the most part, but take a look. These guys were in one vehicle. They were in one vehicle. And the one guy that is not in the vehicle is still alive. Crazy. Crazy.
And he's on a bike, and now you just found another bike. Bro, thank you for your teammate telling that there's a bike there. They should come and enter. Anyway, leave him. Allow him go. Good. Sergi going for the smart play there, allowing 98k.
He spotted him. There's no way he didn't see him, dog. Yeah, because I was wondering. There's no way he's not seeing that guy. I'm seeing that guy, dog. Yeah, that's right. Stop in the middle of there. And you thought they won't see you from the bridge? You're joking,
He thought he
fam.
had gone.
Shoot
Thought he had
that
gone.
guy out of the lobby, man. Shoot him out of the lobby. There's no way he didn't see him because I was thinking, there's no way he's not seeing this guy stopping in the middle of nowhere.
He thought the bike had cover. I'm trying to be play devil's advocate here, but anyway, we still have the top team still alive. 4 Portions still alive as a full squad. 3 Crown Esports still have the entirety of their squad alive. 14th Gaming unfortunately has lost one. Tribe Gaming has lost two. I don't even want to talk about 10-11 Ecstasy, but just for information purposes, they are still alive as a full squad. And it does look like they might be in a little bit of skirmish on there on that southern edge where they find themselves getting approached by the side of 4 Portions.
Yeah, 4 Portions have started the game quite nicely, so they do have that going for them momentum wise. But again, it would be very, very unfortunate if the guys from 4 Portions somehow creep up to 3 Crown Esports. It would be absolutely insane if 3 Crown Esports actually lose that lead. Because right now they do set their sights on Ecstasy and they will be getting dropped. Peachy actually gets the drop on him and 419 crashes the party as well, gets the drop as well. Amar goes down. Ecstasy getting torn to shreds by 4 Portions, one after the other. Solo trade-off, and that will be the end. They are not invincible. Somebody put the invincible tag after that. They are not invincible. They have been stopped by 4 Portions, Chop Rice, Peachy, and 419. Again, Crowns, but you notice this, right? You notice that it's Peachy and 419. Like, You notice this, right?
Right, doing the
It's
work,
from
doing the
yeah,
work.
you notice this, right? Because I've noticed this from like game number 3. I've noticed this. You Skinny and
Um,
Solo, you can't escape. Oh, we've noticed you.
and this is where we start to see, or I'm commending the side of Four Portions for the way they held on that fight, for the way they went into that fight, isolating Amar, going for that push. 10-11 there, Ecstasy on the other hand. I struggle to understand what the idea was, what the thought was, heading into that fight, because we're starting to see them driving one after the other and getting picked apart one after the other. And that just goes to show you that when you're doing things like this, you don't need more than 2 players to punish you for such moves, and it's just 419 and Peachy that just said, you know what, yeah, let's punish these guys, and indeed punishment was served.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Punishment was indeed served. Big move for Four Portions right now. They are sitting at 70 points. 12 points behind Three Crown Esports and more with more momentum. It's not just about the points, it's about how the points affect what you've done so far. And now this
Eh?
is the best thing that could happen, but it looks like Three Crown Esports
Ah,
will rotate into Four Portions. And La 419 gets the drop. Merrick is forced away. And Peachy gets a drop on him as well. They will continue to push down. They know it's Three Crown. They know. They absolutely know they will not allow this one to slide away. They will continue to mount the pressure. And Quilla's been spotted as well. They will continue to keep them at bay. This is a very big move. A big deciding moment.
that's a good need.
Lala has been discovered and he will be sent back into the lobby. This is a very dangerous game that Four Portion is playing right now. No risk, no reward. Grenade again from Peachy. If they do eliminate the guys from Three Crown Esports, the road to the top is wide open right now.
Three Crown Esports cannot lose this under any circumstance. They know what team is approaching them, but it looks like they want to disengage. Shots are coming in through, but Skinny is going to fall. Peachy trying to see if he can also drive away. I do not know if he's finding an off angle or if he's trying to get out of dodge, but it looks like the latter is the case, as Solo would embark on that journey as well. They did have 9 eliminations, but outside his own circle or outside his own fight, doesn't seem to be something that Four Portion is interested in as they drive into the next circle.
Ooh, that would have been a big loss for Four Portions. That would have killed their entire morale. It would have killed their entire plan if they got eliminated there. I think they just decided to prioritize getting inside of the circle first. Big game. What is Solo doing? Wow.
He's not locked in here. I think
Yeah,
his head is still
yeah,
in that fight with Three Crown.
yeah.
However, it's like Peachy, or the call has been made to leave the Three Crown fight alone. Let's just try to find a better place in the circle. I mean, there's still 24 players alive. Obviously, now is not the time to go out. I'm not gonna lie. This is the 5th and final game. You can understand why these teams are disengaging from this fight, because you can't end your day 2 on a bad note. You need to get good points so that going into day 3, you have something to fight for.
Yeah, you're right. It's really a thing of mind games at this stage. You just can't afford, to end the day on a very bad note. Three Crown Esports understands. I mean, I was impressed with the way they were able to hold their own thing down, but it looks like Vanguard Esports are getting dropped away now, and it looks like they might be the ones turn spoiler because Cloud has been knocked away. Why are you going for the pick up, dog? Holy moly, why? Why are you doing that? That is not ideal. You're not in the zone. The pickup is not in the zone. So what is the point? The grenades will follow you for sure. Merrick tosses another grenade over to that tail side position, and it will connect. It does connect. Monkey goes down. I expected that to happen. That was clean from Merrick. That's a beautifully crafted grenade. And again, Vanguard Esports making the wrong choices. The last one left. He's been spotted. Hopefully he doesn't get dropped away, but he's in dangerous position, and he will be spotted out, and that will be a bag hit. Quilla with a beautiful spray closes the gap again. 4 Portions and 3 Crowns going neck and neck right now with the numbers, and looks like 3 Crown will assume that top 2 position once more. Tribe had it for a moment, but it's not over just yet.
Vanguard, they had a full squad. They had 2 working vehicles. Make that 3, I'm sorry. And they still did not push the side of 3 Crown Esports. You had the first knock. And Vanguard Esports completely getting eliminated from the lobby. It's that is not even, that shouldn't have happened, Vanguard Gaming. I feel like they could have handled that better.
Yeah, I feel they could have done so much better. I really thought they were going to commit after getting that knock on Cloud. I really thought they wanted to commit. It was a tight space. They didn't even need to go into the building. They could have just dealt with Three Crown Esports just by hanging around, tossing grenades, but somehow they still turned up to
It's
be
just
the
one
defensive
building.
side. They turned out to be a defensive side. They didn't want to make the advance. I was expecting much better, but it is what it is. Zabit is still very much out there crawling in the green. Hopefully, he doesn't get spotted out. But MVP, Igusi MVP has a beautiful sideline over to the guys, I believe, from Harsh Esports as well. Moja Gaming in a very nice spot, very, very demure, very mindful. And they will be running into the guys from four portions, but they have to be very careful. Harsh Esports could play major spoiler for them, but I believe they are
Uh-oh.
aware. 14 game on the receiving end from Harsh Esports. Atarodo from Arab T. There's so much chaos going on. Arab T is still down to just one
Uh-oh.
player, and 14 Gaming will lose to Uguay.
Indeed, they will. Master Uguay did leave them alone in the last game, but this time it looks like he will be out. Harsh Esports coming in through to play spoiler. The top teams are still alive. I'm talking about the second place team to sixth place. You can tell that right now all they are doing is reading that elimination feed. Tribe Gaming is out, and now that's a little bit of a sigh of relief from the side of Three Crown, as they know that is one of the teams there, but they also have to be careful. For Porsche, trying to see if they can play gatekeep, as we do see that push coming through from Merrick. Slams onto Peachy, the grenade is there, the push is excellent. Down he falls in Peachy, but Merrick will go down as well. Zabit from Unsolid Army gets spotted as he tries to play spoiler. 10 eliminations for Three Crown Esports. Umaja Gaming is still alive. 14th Gaming is still alive.
Yeah, 14 Gaming still stacking it up. They do not want the gaps to stay away. They do not want the distance to just leave, the entirety of their area. But again, that keeps things into perspective here. It's a big move, big games could go here, but all eyes will be on the prize going forward. We do know that anything can happen here.
98K for 14th Gaming, the last player left to hold down the fort in this 5-team showdown. Harsh Esports, they are the ones, they have the fate of 98K in their hands. I would have expected them to low-key send it, but I can understand why they wouldn't do that as well. He is not in the circle, they just have to wait for him. And Umoja Gaming have to do the same as well. They are trying to share, as just this little bunker separates them from Three Crown Esports, who seem to be taking out, getting rid of all the solos in the lobby.
Yeah, Three Crown Esports, they have everything working in their favor right now. All they have to do is maintain maximum speeds, and 98K drops 911. It will call the police as they will go out in fourth. Umoja Gaming now, one elimination is all they've got so far. Harsh Esports starting to rise to the occasion, but 411 is spotted. He gets dropped away by Final Boss, and Tinubu and Final Boss is all left to them, and they're trying to save this over. They're trying to close this out as 419 again gets peeked out. 619 actually gets the drop on him, but Final Boss gets dropped away by the P90. That's a dangerous weapon to have at this stage. Again, Tinubu gets dropped off, and that national budget, he just can't swallow it. Only thing he's swallowing right now is those DBS shots flying from side to side. Player 4 from Harsh Esports playing off of that western side. Quilla and Cloud working hand in hand, still continuously mounting that pressure. This could be a very good way for them to close out the game. Egusi pops one over the top side, but it doesn't connect.
The heal is there for the side of Umoja Gaming, but they would get one more knock again as Three Crown Esports find a first intro. Quilla strode prone on the top of the bunker, almost gets himself taken out, but the grenade ending is what Three Crown Esports say. That, you know what, I know you guys are eyeing our second position, but right now we are looking to boost up further to end things in day 2 of the NPL Season 8 Harmattan Split Finals.
Wow, what a finish that was from Three Crown Esports. It doesn't get any better than that. Crowns, that was amazing. But Fire, what are your thoughts? What an ending to tonight's games.
Absolutely, absolutely. A great end to tonight games. You see the boys from Three Crowns stepping it up and looking to continue to push all the way up above 100 points. My man Quilla getting 4 eliminations to himself as well as the rest of his teammates. But look at that from Cloud once again coming in with the eliminations. Remember, this is the same guy who got a clutch against Neon. He has been working overtime today, and for the entire team, they sit down with 14 eliminations. Great stuff coming from them. But the highlight of the game definitely has to go to the guys from Four Potions. We'll talk about them in a second. But regardless, the amount of eliminations in the game, of course, sit down at 60 eliminations, total healing 7,718 and 64 knocks coming through. 6 grenades, of course, a lot of them have to be, in that final circle. This is also the grenades kept on flying over and over again from the boys from Three Crowns as they charged up against the boys from Hashi Sports as well as UG in that final circle. And like Crowns, Pre said, the corruption coming through from Tinubu, swallowing the entire budget was not enough to keep the boys from Three Crowns at bay. All right, you can see right there, Three Crowns head to head against 14 Gaming, the guys who were sitting down in that top 4 spot with 15 eliminations to 3 Crowns as well as 8 eliminations to 14 Gaming. Of course, they have quite the best of games in the 3rd and the 4th game. Of course, they bottled it, while it looked like they were going to close the gap with the boys from Ecstasy, but they do seem to have done that in the last game and final game of the night. We'll see what that means for them tomorrow. But our MVP of the night, of course, is that man Cloud, and very well deserved, sitting down with 7 eliminations to his name. Remember, he has been working overtime today. That man getting 7 eliminations just kept pushing and pushing, and now finally it has paid off with a chicken dinner for his team. Okay, so we now move on to the top players of the game. Cloud, of course, getting 7 eliminations. We talked about him, but going all the way in that second spot is that man, the main man, Peachy, getting himself 904 damage as well as 5 eliminations. I mean, great stuff coming through from them. But now we move on to the entire leaderboard as we still see the boys from Three Crowns getting 25 eliminations as well as 14 Gaming coming in second place with 12, 4 Potions with 11. We just have to give it up for them getting those 10 eliminations, and 4 of those was actually them taking out Ecstasy quite early on. It was because of them Ecstasy finished the game in 13th place with 0 points as well as 0 eliminations. Definitely doing as much as possible and doing a favor to the rest of the guys in that top 4 to close that gap. We'll see in a second what that means for the overall leaderboard, because teams were popping. In that 4th position, of course, is the boys from UG who did their very best in that final circle. But what does that mean now for the overall top players? My man Peachy moving all the way towards that 2nd spot, as well as Quilla too as well, with 23 and 21 points respectively. Of course, Amma still holding that number 1 spot with 42 eliminations, but they're catching up now. They are continuing. Peachy, Quilla are continuing to losing the gap. Of course the point gap is still about 19. The elimination gap is still about 19, but we'll see what that means tomorrow if they can take over that number 1 spot, get a couple of kills throughout the entire 5 games. We'll see what that means. Now 3C has crossed that 100 mark. They are now just 31 points behind Ecstasy, guys. It's still possible. You can never say never, okay? We still got a couple of games to go. 3C has got 107, 14 Gaming has got 90, as well as Tribe Gaming have got 87. 4P with 73, they did manage to climb up on that leaderboard, especially with that beautiful game we just saw where they got 10 elimination. But we'll see if they can carry that performance into tomorrow's games when we come back. All right, so great, great games that we've seen today. We saw, the boys from 14 Gaming try as much as possible to, grab maximum points in the first game and continue to close that gap with the boys from XTC. In the second game, we saw Afro Esports play spoiler to 14 Gaming and grab that game and sort of have a better game than they probably have been throughout the entire lobby. But then, just when we thought that things were there was an upset brewing. The boys from XCC came back again with another victory in the third game. Repeated the same thing again in the fourth. And now they increased the gap to more than 50 points. But now here comes 3C once again fighting to see if they can grab that number one spot and winning the final game of the night. The gap's now about 30 points. So we'll see what that means tomorrow when we catch you guys same time from 10:11. See you then.